I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 88. This one's with Leslie Ann Ellingburg, and we talk about trauma-informed movement, dance, and eating disorders. It's a really interesting talk, really good playing catch-up with Leslie. She wanted me to add here at the beginning that she knows that there's a big difference between trauma-informed yoga and regular yoga. In the trauma-informed classes, there are no hands-on or adjustments or assists, that the teacher stays on their mat the whole time. She got a little too excited in our conversation and forgot to mention that aspect. If you'd like more information about Leslie, you can find her on Facebook at Yogini is a Dancer, YOGINISADANCER. And then on Instagram, she's Yogini is a Dancer, but it's Yogini_is_a_dancer. Give her a follow. Tell her Ramblin' Man sent you. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode. It's a little old school.
Yeah.
Like I think I've been doing it via Zoom and in person at my house a few times with mic stands plugged in, all that.
I know this feels very college. I feel like
this is kind of how it began, is Aaron Donovan and I sitting at Wildlife Bakehouse talking about mountain biking in the Czech Republic, which there's a preview for anybody. I'm trying to think what episode I'm up to. Episode 100 will be Aaron Donovan and I talking again.
Okay.
I said, I feel like, because she hasn't been on since, I was like, I feel like you should be on every 100 episodes.
Nice little like bookmark.
I think I just released 86, 87. I think. I don't know.
You do a lot. So like you plan very well. That's good.
I have 3 different podcasts.
Oh, that's a lot. I just thought it was the one.
No, 3 different podcasts, a weekly radio show. 2 podcasts that are on pause right now.
Okay.
So I would have, if I did all the ones that I have in the hopper, I would end up doing 5.
That's a lot. No wonder everyone knows you.
Oh, no, all that came from before. That's why I do this. It's because I just know everybody. And
it's like you and Alan. I feel like are 2 people that like everyone knows. I mean, when I started working in Knoxville, that's how I met everyone, was because I opened a little yoga space. I rented out a little tiny room, and someone told me to reach out to Alan.
Oh, yeah.
Knoxville urban guy. And from there, he introduced me to Del and Sean, and then everyone else that I just kind of ended up meeting. And I met a lot of people through Del and Sean, too, because they know everyone and everything. And we were all the same age, you know. And
Well, except for Sean, he's an old man.
I guess.
He's 2 years older than me, so I like to give him shit. And he just had a birthday, so I'm like, man, what's it like turning 50 finally? He's like, shut up. He did not turn 50.
I was about to say, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not how old he is. So is he a Pisces like me?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, his birthday was last Thursday.
Oh my gosh, mine was Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pisces. Fishies are the best. I will swear that up and down.
Oh my God.
Pisces are the best.
So-
Pisces babies.
So here's the what do you think I am? I love playing this game.
Like sign wise?
Yeah. I don't think
I'm gonna say an earth sign. So that's either gonna be a Cap, so a Capricorn, a Taurus, or which is the bull, or what's the other one? Because I always get along with Capricorns, Tauruses, Leos. But I mean that's a fire sign.
I think I don't match my sign.
Well, sometimes it's because
I don't know shit about signs. So
it's because sometimes you connect more to your moon sign.
what is your moon sign?
So it's the position of the moon that you were born under. So I'm a Pisces sun, so I'm the fish, and my moon sign is a Gemini, which is why I'm a chatty Cathy, and a bunch of other stuff. And then you have your rising sign, and I'm a Cancer in that.
I don't know what any of. Okay, so here we go. This is what we're going to figure out.
This is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, this is how we're going to start.
Not what we planned whatsoever.
Hell no.
So I'm going to guess. But see, now that you said something like that, I'm definitely going to say like maybe a Libra.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Because
Pinchers.
are you a Cancer?
No, Scorpio.
Oh, a Scorpio.
Yeah. No, wait, is that right?
A Scorpio's the Scorpion.
Fuck, I don't even know. October. My birthday's
October.
in October.
So it's a Libra or a Scorpio.
I'm a Scorpio.
Yes. So I was right because I first said Libra.
Oh, okay.
So
So what would my
and
moon
then-
sign be?
Oh, you would have to look it up in your birth chart.
Oh.
But I was like, because it was like, when you said that, I was like, I'm going to go with something really random, and that would have been a Libra, because that would have been
Okay.
the most opposite of what I would thought for you. So the whole fact that you're a Scorpio, I'm like, okay, I'm only one sign off. Not too bad.
I don't know what
But
any
you
of
give
this-
off major earth sign vibes.
What does that mean?
Just very grounded,
Oh. Well, yeah. That's
very settled.
that's the Collins Fulton in me. That's what that is.
But yeah, so you can just like Google your birth chart, like your natal chart, and you can put in the date and the time you were born, the location.
Okay.
And it will give you like all your houses and your planets. So like most of mine is split down the middle between Pisces and Gemini with some Capricorn.
My friend Autumn wanted to do this. She was like, I need to know where you were born, what time you were born. I was like, I can give you a guesstimate on what time I was born. I know it was like 1 something in the morning.
Yeah.
Like 1:15 in the. So is that close enough? Like, or does it have to be like 1:15?
So I don't know my birth time. So I always just put in something close to it. Like some
Okay.
people can kind of be super exact. I mean, of course, like anything else, you want to be as exact as possible, but
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Eventually, I'll figure. Maybe by episode 137, I'll figure that
Yeah,
out.
just get someone who's really into astrology on your podcast.
So that also was another reason why this thing started. And I haven't told this story in a while. Is Sean and this guy Lance and I were sitting up on the deck at the collective, and Lance said, "I'm thinking about getting into astronomy," but I heard him as astrology. And
Funny.
so we talked for like 20 minutes, and then I was like, oh, shit, dude, hold on. I thought you said astrology, and I was trying to figure out what in the hell you were talking about. And I was like, how funny would that be to have a conversation go on for like 2 hours when you think they say astrology, but they really
Or
say
just
astronomy.
any topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd always been into astrology even as a kid. I loved astrology, numerology, reading palms. Like I remember as a kid, I checked out a book from the library on palm reading, which is really funny because I grew up Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
So like this is all not appropriate at all. But I always grew up being very connected and feeling connected to the universe and the stars and like something greater than myself. And, you know, even my mom was like, okay, if you want to go check out a palm reading book, okay, fine, whatever. But I remember that. I think I was like 8 or 9 years old or something.
Yeah.
Cause I think I saw it on television.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I grew up watching a lot of old school stuff, and I remember being obsessed with this version of Sinbad. So it's just like from the 40s, and it was like a colored version.
Yeah. Sinbad in the Seven Seas.
And it was the girl had the little eye cover, like the eye on her palms, and would put the palm. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Yeah.
I was obsessed. No one knows about that version of Sinbad, but it was my favorite, and so I think that whole like mystical thing got me really into that. I don't know, but but then as I grew up, you know, church is like, that's the devil.
That's it.
No.
That Ouija board is the devil.
You're not connected to anything. Like, so all this stuff that I felt like I was kind of in tune with was seen as the devil or wrong. So I just kind of like shoved it away for a long time. And then then my ex-husband wasn't really into it, kind of thought that stuff was hokum and stuff. And so like, and then once I left and I started reconnecting to myself as a person, I kind of started getting back into the divine and like all these things and stuff that I used to be really interested to, and started diving even deeper into that. Like, so all my life I saw things like 1111, 1212, and those angel numbers and stuff. So I started being like, why have these followed me all my life? And, you know, synchronicities, as a lot of bird feathers were following me around last summer.
Okay. Do you know what that means, or it's just something that was this is interesting? So
my research was a lot on, they usually symbolize some kind of life change or staying on a path, because mine were always white or black. Bird feathers. So, and also too, it can kind of depend on what folklore you're looking into. You know, whether or not you're looking at it from a Native American lens or other symbolisms, because, you know, every culture has different symbols.
Right.
But one of my favorites was one that I found when I was walking one day. It was a black feather with white dots, and I took a picture of it, and I don't know what kind of bird it was from, but that was one of my favorites. But I saw them every day, and that was when I was going through this time in my life of rediscovering who I was, because I had just left my husband and I was starting out on my own, starting over, kind of deciding, do I stay in Winston-Salem? Do I stick with the job that I have? Do I go back to school and pursue my dream of getting my master's that I put off for years? Do I do something else completely entirely?
Right.
And so feathers were kind of this, they were a symbol of like kind of a reassurance that this is the right path I'm doing, and everything that I'm doing is guiding me to where I need to go.
Okay. What is the master's you're pursuing?
I'm getting my master's in public health, and my concentration is community and behavioral health. Okay.
Was your bachelor's in something similar? Or
no.
What was your... Oh, God, you're
smiling.
Well,
I mean, it's similar. It works. So my background's in exercise science.
Okay.
So I studied...
I didn't know if you were going to say, like, no, my bachelor's is in drama, and something completely...
Think.
No, I was thinking of something completely out of left field. It's in nuclear science, and...
I'm not that smart. And I'm not that great at math. That's why I'm a performer. And I pay people to do my taxes.
Oh no, that's the smartest thing you can do as an adult, is pay someone smarter than you to do your taxes.
If I can find anyone to do anything for me that I can't do, I'm going to have someone else do it. Like, I'm an independent woman, but if it's going to make my life easier, why not just get someone else to do something for me?
Well,
that's called being smart.
Yeah. Yes, to a point. I think I work really hard to see if I can figure it out, and then I hit a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm done. It's smarter. Like I replaced a piece of sheetrock in my house, and I was like, you know what, I've hung sheetrock. I've never replaced sheetrock, so I did it. I just got it done. So
I feel like that's also a dude thing.
Yeah, probably. But I also know plumbing I'm pretty good at, but I had a problem to where my excess was backing up into my washing machine, and I just called a plumber. I was like, this is above my pay grade. I'm just going to figure out. And it turned out like the line that was going out to the street had crumbled in. I was like, see? So I think it's weird to a level. I'll try to figure it out, but then it hits a point. And then once it crosses that line, it's like, oh, I'll never do this. This is somebody else's shit.
And I think so. I feel like there are some things you need to learn. So I'd never lived on my own. I went to school when I was in college. I lived with my parents. And then as a baby, I got married. And I was a baby. I was 23, going to be 24. But I went from living with my family to living with my husband. So
Yeah.
I just now lived on my own for the first time ever in my life at the age of 31. So there's so many things I don't know how to do. Last year, it was like my friends were just cracking up because I was like, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I felt kind of horrible because I was like, I feel like I should know how to at least do basic shit.
Well, but then
Like,
again,
get my mom. So when I moved into my house, my mom is one of these amazing women who can do anything. She can fix cars. She can do lighting. I mean,
Okay.
just whatever. She's Wonder Woman.
yeah.
And so I moved into my very first place, and my mom came in, and I call it my apocalypse kit. But there was like tools and 5 different kinds of bug sprays, which I needed because that house had so many bugs.
Yeah.
And all this stuff just to like fix. And I was like, Mom, I don't know what any of this is. Like, you're giving me these tools. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Different screwdrivers, all this stuff. But, I learned a lot, like how to clean your trap out of your dishwasher.
Oh, yeah.
That is disgusting. And if you have not cleaned out the trap in your dishwasher, please do so.
Well,
but
I'm
I had
thinking
to
of
Google how to do that.
when I moved into my house, I was 25, and I had only lived with my parents, and I actually had to call my mom and have her write down the instructions on how to do laundry. Because I'd never
At least
done
I
laundry.
knew how to do that.
Because I'd just never done it. And
I can cook and I can do laundry. Like, at least I know how to do those things.
I could cook to a point. There were times where I would be like, I need to do this. What do you think? And a lot of times it wasn't like, how do I do this? It was like, I'm doing this way. Is this the best way to do it?
I was also scared to sanitize and clean my dryer and washer. So the house that I moved into was an old home.
Yeah.
Kind of think like one of those old South Knox or North Knox homes
yeah.
that probably should not be around. But you know what? They're cute.
Oh, yeah.
And so
yeah.
they really appeal to young 30-something girls who are like, oh, my gosh, this is so cute and
I live on my own.
I'm like, this is just wonderful. And I always wanted to live in one of those old homes.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I'm living out my best life, getting what I want. But the washer and dryer were really old, and I didn't want to use them. And I was really scared to, like, clean it because there was some stuff in there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I had to make, my friend was like, you just have to do it.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
ended up doing it, and, it wasn't that bad. But, it's just weird, I never thought about cleaning a washer and dryer. Never once I saw my husband clean out the trap of a dishwasher. Within 3 weeks of living on my own, my refrigerator broke. I had to live out of an Igloo cooler, and it took the landlords almost a month and a half to get me a new fridge.
Good Lord.
Oh, yes. So talk about MacGyvering that. I was like, I don't know what else to do except get one of those little, like, styrofoam coolers and, you know,
Oh man.
whatever. And then it wasn't like 2 weeks after I got my refrigerator fixed, my dishwasher broke, and I was out without a dishwasher for almost a month. And I hate hand washing dishes. I think it's pointless. So
I have been without a dishwasher for like 4 years because I'm a single dude and I'm just like, I just wash dishes. Like, I don't care.
oh, and as a single dude, you only have 2 plates, 2 forks,
No.
2 knives, and a set of cups.
No,
Are you different than most?
No, I'm also extremely like over prepare to the point of a little bit of OCD to where I have an insane amount of spoons, forks, everything. Like,
Okay, so most bachelor dudes
No.
aren't like that because
and
all
plates,
mine
I
are
have
just
3
like,
different sets of plates. Like, I'm aggressive on, I would rather have, because it's just me, I'm like, I would rather have a lot of stuff and not have to worry about not having something clean. Same thing with like clothes, like insane amount of socks. I was like, no, they'll just take up an entire drawer. I don't care. Like, it's just me, so it doesn't matter.
That's so funny. Because most people, like all the dudes I know who aren't married, they all like, I call it bachelor stuff. They have like 2 of everything, no drapes or anything on their windows.
So
And
I do have
like nothing on their walls. Or if they have art, it's like there are a few that have stuff on their walls.
okay.
But like, or they'll just lay it on the floor propped up to a wall, and they're like, I'm eventually going to get there.
So-
like, there are just certain things that,
So you eventually need to
and
come.
almost a lot of alcohol too,
Oh, okay, that I do have.
which I silently judge most of their choices. But you know, whatever.
Okay, then you need to. Okay, so now the next goal is for you to come down the house we'll do the radio show at the house or something, so you can see, because there's a couple that came on very early, Mandy and why am I blanking on his name right now? I'm sorry. They did an episode on marriage, and he came in and he was mind blown. He was like, "This does not feel like a bachelor's pad." I'm not bragging or anything, but he was like,
Yeah.
I would have like Budweiser signs and I was like, no. It's like, dude, I'm an artist. I was like, I have cool art prints on the wall.
Yeah.
I was like, now I will say my drapes are the drapes that were there when I moved in. I changed the rods.
But I mean, who am I to say? Like,
Yeah.
I don't really like drapes or curtains. So, I mean, I'm not going to have. Even when I was married, we never had drapes or curtains. So I can't really say
Yeah.
much, but like almost all guys that I know who don't have a woman in their lives, they're like, yeah, it's pointless.
So
But there are a few that do. Sometimes guys surprise me.
Yeah.
Most that I don't know. It's been interesting.
Well, here's a weird thing to admit is that when I first bought my house, I was 25, and I bought that house, and my friend, I'm going to shout her out on here and make fun of her, is Michelle. She told me, she was like, don't do too much work on the house because eventually you're going to find somebody. Excuse me, you're going to have a woman move in, and she's going to want to change everything. And I was like, but I'm an artist and a designer. I understand color theory. And she was like, oh, that doesn't matter. And I was like, so what you're saying is if I met someone who is a baker or something that had nothing to do with color, she would explain to me how I don't understand color. And she was like, yes. So don't do anything. So, oh God, you're agreeing. You're just not
I'm
audible.
going to say she's right. Like, I'm going to say yes.
So I did paint like my office,
But the thing
and the
is-
foyer and the bathroom, but all the rest are just like eggshell white. Like I painted those like mocha kind of brown.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, you did a good job on those." Like, yeah, because I know what the hell I'm doing, man.
So I think it'll be different. Like, if you know art and color and stuff, I mean, like, yeah, I would totally trust someone, but I also know people who I would not trust to decorate anything with
Yeah.
a 10-foot pole. So again, and I know women who can't decorate with a 10-foot pole either. So,
Well, and I think it's weird in that, like,
but yes, women tend to be very opinionated if they move in, which, I mean, I'm probably never going to live with anyone ever again. That's no.
well, what's really funny is there's a lot of stuff like that I haven't done. And a big reason I haven't done is because I haven't had anybody there to push me to do it. Like I need to change up my kitchen floor because it's this gaudy, ugly 70s vinyl, but it's this weird like shotgunny, like there's an island, like it snakes around. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. And I finally figured out like 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I need to do those big pieces of tile because those I can cut around and do. So those are the things that it's like, I think I can do this myself because I know how to do a little bit of that stuff. But I haven't done it because I was like, I have no reason to. I don't care. Like, it's just me. It's just going to get dirty. Like, it doesn't matter that much to me. But then I finally started, like, peeled the wallpaper in the kitchen, painted it blue, a bright blue.
Wallpaper needs to die in a kitchen.
Yeah.
That matte paint.
There were
like, I had a rental property one time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why in the world did the landlords decide to paint the kitchen with a matte paint? I know why they do matte paint, because it's cheap.
Yeah.
And it hides things pretty well. But, like, you get stains in the kitchen.
Yeah, there were 3 layers of wallpaper. 3, and the lowest one dated back to the original 50s of the house. It was terrible. So I actually had a buddy come do that because I could not get the wallpaper down. It was so dense, and the glue was so old. And he even had a hard time getting it out. And
I do like a good wallpaper accent wall, though. I think that's nice.
So the one thing that...
And now they make removable wallpaper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's like this...
Home decorating with Leslie and Jody. Here we go.
But you can buy this wallpaper, and you just put it up a wall, but you can remove it. It's removable wallpaper, and it's really popular now for people who are like in rental properties, but you can't paint, you can't put up wallpaper, and you just have horrible, nasty walls, and like you want to do something with it.
Yeah. So I will say the one thing I've got in there
it's expensive though,
that
but
some people fussed at that I actually like is what's it called? Wood. The fake wood. Why am I blanking on
wood paneling from the
paneling.
70s?
Wood paneling. I actually like it. I think it's a good because like I said, my kitchen is very shotgunny. It's very thin and long, but it's like it delineates the difference between the kitchen and where like the breakfast nook is. Mm-hmm. So I like it for that. And I've had other people's like, no, rip that out. I was like, if I do anything, I'm gonna sand this down and paint it or something.
Yeah. So when I was looking at homes, a lot of the old homes I was looking at had wood paneling walls, and I mean, I love the 70s. I love it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just can't get down with like that much wood paneling.
Yeah.
But you can paint it. You can also, and I was also looking at ways to decorate around it. Like you can get really creative with wood paneling and it look really slick.
I think it
just takes a lot of the thought.
The stuff that I have is kind of darker and it doesn't look like that shitty 70s paneling to me. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look that way. I keep looking back to see for anybody listening, looking at the sun to be like, maybe we need to reposition in the sun so you're not cold. But I think it's coming.
I'm always cold.
Oh, okay.
Like it could be 90 degrees outside and I'm still like,
oh, geez.
I'm so cold. Like always.
The exact opposite here. I'm out here in shorts like, yeah, I'm sweating.
Like anyone who knows me knows that like I'm always complaining that I'm cold and I sleep with 10 blankets all year long. No one likes sharing a bed with me because they're like, why do you have 5 blankets? And I'm like, because I'm cold. And they're like, Leslie, it's the middle of July. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm cold. And I wear socks to bed and I wear pants.
See, but you got to find somebody who's very warm natured, because then you just take the blanket and you double it over onto your side. So it can fold back over during the day and look like, a bed. And then you take that and double it. See?
I don't even make my bed. I think making a bed is pointless.
I just fold it back over. I
don't do anything. So I'm like, and it's so funny. So now I live back at home with my parents and it's wonderful. Because I'm saving up some money before I, move out this summer. Because, I have no money and I'm in grad school. I'm a poor grad kid. And before I leave to go out of town, my mom is always like, make your bed.
Does she have a lot of people coming by to check
No.
it?
And the thing is, I keep my bedroom door closed when I'm gone. But, like, make your bed, honey.
That's hilarious.
Why? Like, I'm so confused. And like when I lived in Winston, and anytime I would leave, my friend Siamara would come and like just make sure I had no rodents or cockroaches. Like I tell you, my house was a little house of horrors. There was always something wrong. There were always bugs. I call them spider crickets, but a lot of people call them cave crickets. They're
yeah, I've got those in my basement. Camel crickets.
Camel crickets, yes. And as my friend so eloquently said this weekend, a portal from hell opened up, and that's where camel crickets come from. One fell on me in the shower one time.
Oh, God. They'll be in my bathroom every once in a while. I'm starting to get the thing now because it's warming up to where I've seen little bugs in my house to where I know they were just frozen. And this happens every year this time to where I was like, there's a little gnat. It's like, son of a bitch. And I'll kill it. And then like 3 days later, I'll find another one. I was like, these aren't like growing in my house. These are outside. And when I open my door to get my mail, they just come into the warmth.
But she would always check in on my house, you know, to make sure that if there was any bugs, they were dead, or that like, you know, I have some pretty crazy compulsions, and, you know, mine is always that my house is going to burn down, and I had a rental property. So she'd like, you know, call my fears that my house, in fact, is still standing. But she would always make my bed. She'd be like, I made your bed. Why do you not make your bed?
And she was judging me.
She would just go ahead and make my bed. And I'm like, but no one's there. Like, and I would come home and my bed was always made. And I'm like, what's the point of making a bed? You only use it to sleep in it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like a cold bed, so it keeps my bed cold. If I don't make it.
Whatever you got to tell yourself. It's all good.
Like, it's just so weird. But how people are like crazy about like making beds. I'm like, and who's going in your bedroom anyways?
Well, there's a lot of people from the military that they like to make their bed the first thing. And I've heard this in business and stuff. They're like, if you make your bed, you start your day off with a win, that you completed a task. I was like, or I could just go make coffee.
I was about to make a coffee joke as well, too. So my ex-husband was a former Navyman, and he hated making a bed.
Really?
Because
That's
he
hilarious.
made it so much the 7 years he was in the Navy. He was like, he goes, that's the one thing that did not stick with me after my service was making a bed.
So I hate to say it, that's me and my friends who do CrossFit and all that shit. I was like, I did enough of this when I was playing sports at a competitive level or boxing. I was like, I don't want to do this shit now. I've done enough wompies and where they call now burpees. It's like, I've done enough wompies in my life. I don't ever need to do that again.
I don't do a burpee at all, even when I'm training clients.
Yeah.
I'm the best trainer because I don't make them do burpees. That's why everyone likes me so much.
Oh, my God. Okay, so you're living back with your folks. You're going to school. Are you still doing anything like freelance or...
Occasionally. So if, I don't really advertise it much anymore. But I do have a few personal clients. I'm teaching some burlesque stuff to a few privates here. I just got a couple to do couples personal training with me. They wanted to work out together. So I'm not really advertising it as much. So my slots are kind of not that full, but if someone ever wants to work with me, I'm never gonna turn it down.
So what is the broad range of what all services you provide? That sounds very methodical. What are the broad range?
Ranges. So
give me your elevator pitch. I'm just kidding. Do not give me your elevator
I remember,
pitch.
I'll never forget when I served in AmeriCorps, and so when I lived in Morristown. One of the few things I did when I lived in Morristown and when I was at Knoxville, and I did kind of PR. I was a social liaison, but I pretty much did PR, and I went around and interacted with people, shared the nonprofit that I worked for, Clinch Pal. I shared our services, our agritourism, and things that we did.
Yeah.
I got to go around and talk to people, do social media, and do all that really cool stuff.
Okay.
And this was kind of really before social media blasted off. So this was 6 years ago or something, where it was still, you didn't really do a whole lot.
There wasn't an algorithm. It was just everything was actually in the order that it was posted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, no edits, no filters, no nothing. And anyways, and I had to develop an elevator pitch for the company. That was one of the things I had to do was be able. So it's always so funny when I hear elevator pitch. And when I was really big into freelancing, when I lived in Oklahoma City, I had one because my ex-husband was a shark of a businessman. And so I got pretty slick in it. So I had 3 elevator pitches, depending if I was pitching dance, yoga, whatever it was.
Right.
I could have something really quick to sell myself, and now I'm just well, I'll have to make something off the top of my head. But pretty much what I do is I teach dance, and I have danced for a long, long time. And I worked professionally as a teacher, a choreographer, and a performer since I was 22.
Okay.
So I've been teaching, performing, and choreographing professionally for 10 years. But I started dancing when I was 10. And then I also teach yoga. And I personal train. I'm an exercise physiologist. So I do that as well too. And my approach to all this is very, so I'm a trauma informed, and so it's a very non-judgmental, and I'm very aware and sensitive of where people come from.
Okay.
So there are certain things I say versus certain things I don't say. I'm very aware of trigger words and how I structure classes and things of that nature to make things very, very sensitive.
Okay.
Because you never know when someone comes into your doors what they're struggling with or dealing with. So I used to get triggered a lot in yoga classes, and I had no idea why. But, at the end of class, there's Shavasana where, you lay and you relax. And I would always freak out. And the room would be dark, so the teacher's walking around, and I just could not relax. And I, for years, felt so kind of inadequate as a yogi and as a yoga teacher because I was struggling, and I had teachers say, well, you just need to practice more. It comes with time and stuff like that.
Right. And
it wasn't until I started going into this realm of trauma and healing my own trauma and really doing the work that it was lights off. Someone walking around the room is a very triggering thing for people. If you have ever been assaulted or something happened to you in the dark, or you have a fear of the dark,
right?
You and you have your eyes closed and someone's walking around. It's a fear because you don't know if this person's going to attack you or not. So that is something that could be very, very and you're also laying on your back in a very vulnerable position. So you're just trying to take things like that and make it a little bit more safe.
Okay.
To keep people calm, especially, if someone has, a sexual assault survivor or someone with PTSD comes into your class. There are certain things you want to do to keep them safe.
So in yoga, I'm trying to think how to say this. Is it something you kind of build to the entire time? Or, you know what I mean? It's almost like you're constantly, as you're teaching, putting them at ease so that at the end they can feel more comfortable in being vulnerable in how they're laying or
so the biggest thing with being trauma sensitive or trauma informed is giving the power of choice back to the student. So it's always about empowering people.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes teachers just say, you have to do this, this, this. And I remember being but I don't want to do any of this, or I don't feel right when I do this. I can't focus if you're telling me to do this. And it was because that wasn't what my body was needing and it was bringing things up.
I did yoga for, I think, 3 months at a place in town who I will not name. But it was funny because, I hate being the center of attention, which is hilarious being a giant dude. Mm-hmm. But I also have injuries and stuff from sports. So she had us in one position to where it was underneath with my shoulder and all my weight was on my shoulder, where I've dislocated my shoulders God knows how many times, and I couldn't do it. I did it one time and almost couldn't move my arm. So when we did it again, I just didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And she came almost running up to me. She was like, hey, you really need to. And I was like, no, I can't. Like, it hurts. And
Good for you.
And she was like, okay, well, what I need you to do is stand up and grab your arm. And I will go, I don't want to stand up.
Yeah.
I don't want to be. And so I stood up and I had to move my arm. I was like, I fucking hate this. I was just so angry and just like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. Like,
yeah. So it's all about giving and hearing the students say, no, I don't want to do this, and being like, great. That is your power and your choice. Because a lot of times those who have been, because injury is a trauma as well too. Like, you know, giving the students the power to be like, no, I don't want to do this. This is not right for me. I will give you other options, or I'll just say, hey, don't do it. Come back when you feel comfortable.
Right.
Because I'm not in your body. I don't know your lived experiences and where you come from. But, you know, so who am I to tell you what to do? I can guide you. But at the end of the day, you make the choices for you. And that's what I'm giving back to the students. And, you know, I teach with the lights on. I've had students who say, why do you teach with lights on? You need to teach with the lights off. It's more calming. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I secretly freak out if the lights are off.
Okay.
Even as a teacher. I keep doors open. So that way people can leave. I also give people the option to leave during Shavasana. That's very controversial. It's a highly triggering and a highly alerted space. So if people want to leave because maybe they've had a really tough class, maybe like they're at their emotional capacity and they're overwhelmed, I don't want to keep them there. They need to go decompress, do what they need to do to take care of themselves.
Okay.
And you know, it's also the way I cue. So trying to remove wording and language, since my primary focus is eating disorders and body dysmorphia. That's my population. You know, I'm finding ways to not say certain things. Like it's very not much about the body when you come and when you come work with me. It's about the feelings in your body and just connecting to, oh, what's it like when I move my arm up over my head? I never thought about that before.
Right.
And, you know, I'm not saying things like six-pack abs, and I've changed a lot over the years, but like I'm trying to remove a lot of that physical outwardness appearance from classes and cues. Because, you know, we're so much more than what we look like and the aesthetics. And, you know, I think if we're preaching that, it can kind of make people feel inadequate and less than.
Yeah.
And also, too, I'm a thin white woman with a lot of privilege. So that's always at the forefront when I teach. How I present myself, my cues, how I'm teaching, and what I'm doing. Because I know that I can't say, because people are just going to see like this external thing. They're like, oh, I'm never going to look like her. Blah, blah, blah. They'll say whatever. Okay. And I'm like, I don't care what you look like. You can wear whatever you want. It's not about what you look like. I want you to come to the mat, come to a dance class, come work out with me, because I want you to connect and like empower yourself and reclaim your body from diet culture, and kind of just taking time for you, especially for women, where we're always taught like, you're not good enough, you don't look like this, you're, you know, all these things.
Right.
And how dare we take time for ourselves? How dare we work out for pleasure and fun and move our bodies for fun? It's supposed to be torture, and it's not. Like, so I like to help people rewrite their narrative and their relationship with movement, because I know what it's like to be addicted to exercise and abuse my body and, you know, do things to fit this certain ideal, or to numb myself because I had a lot of issues and wasn't feeling heard or valued or anything. And so I'm just taking it out on my body. So sometimes it's nice to just be like, we're just going to move.
So
for the sheer hell of it.
When it comes like to the yoga and the dance and everything, how did you, I don't want to say learn, but since it seems like it's not the normal, well, how did you learn how to do that? Was it a lot of trial and error, or did you kind of almost like self-reflect and be like, what would I want if I was in this situation?
So when I first started...
Scenario. I was trying to say situation and scenario at the same time.
So when it came to dance, when when I started becoming a dance teacher, I wanted to be the dance teacher that I wish I had as a kid.
Okay.
Or when I was dancing in college.
At what point did you start teaching dance, going from being the dancer to the teacher?
22, right when I graduated.
Okay.
I started like pre-training and getting some assistant teaching in when I was in college. But it was when I graduated is when I started teaching. But I wanted to be the teacher that I wish I had all throughout my training career. That teacher who didn't place a lot of focus on the body, because dance is an image-based sport, especially ballet. So it carries with it the thin ideal. It carries with it these images of lathy, elongated, beautiful women, long legs, short torsos, a long neck, this Balanchine body, all of these things. And you're not taught that all bodies can dance. The size of your body and shape of your body doesn't matter. Dance comes from within.
Okay.
And having also seen what other teachers had said to kids who didn't look like this ideal. And, like all sports, there are certain body types that are advantageous. You can't deny that at all.
Right.
So, and I think there is an element to that. But we also have to look through it at the lens of there are exceptions. And, if someone's an amazing dancer, but they don't look like a typical dancer, they're not going to get any roles, and that's a bunch of bullshit.
Right. When it comes to sports.
Theater and dance and performing arts is the only place where you can get a gig based on what you looked like.
Huh.
Or you cannot get one based on what you look like. I'm 5'1", so I can't audition for a role if they want someone who's a minimum of 5'5".
Well, it's same thing with like...
I may be better than the person who's 5'5".
With modeling forever with women, had to be 5'10" or above, and God forbid you're 5'6". Mm-hmm. You weren't seen as a good model.
Yeah.
That's kind of insane to me.
So dance is a lot like that. And then there was just also a lot of competition, and I'm a highly competitive person, but I always felt like there's always someone better than you. That's just life. But when you don't have a teacher or a coach who is like, here's how to work around that and address the mental issues that are in dance. I wasn't mentally strong. I wasn't mentally prepared for that cutthroat competition of wanting to be in a company life or anything of that nature. But I just set out to be like, I want to be this teacher that encourages kids. If you want to dance, it doesn't matter what you look like.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what these people think. You can still dance and you can still be a professional. And dance is so much more than what people think it is. And it's a life skill that you can carry with you even if you don't take a dance class anymore. Once you're a dancer, you're always a dancer. I had a teacher say that to me because of the skills that it teaches you and what it brings to your life.
Do you think a lot of learning dance is learning how to be comfortable in your own body, or comfortable being in front of people and being comfortable in your own body? Uh-oh, did I just stump you?
So,
You're at a loss for words. What the hell, man?
So dance with me has kind of changed a lot as I've changed. So there was a point in time where I didn't dance because I had to put my recovery first, and dance was very triggering for me.
Okay.
Because I was performing and being in costumes and in front of people. So got to make sure that I do my little diets and got to look good on the stage and, all that stuff. And I had to remove myself because it was triggering. So I couldn't heal. I kind of dealt with that on and off even when I was performing. I would say now that dance is more about, once it was taken away from me and I started doing it again, I got more connected into removing this idea of performing for others and just doing it for myself.
Okay.
Because I didn't get to take classes often. So when I would get to go take a ballet class, I was relishing in the corrections. I was relishing just being in the studio and feeling the Marley and listening to the music. And when I did get to perform, I was like, man, I haven't performed in a long time. This idea just to like
Right.
get to be on stage and do what I love. I just started reframing it, and it opened up a whole new dance experience, and it also impacted my teaching because I
Okay.
was teaching kids, just dance from your heart, dance from within, because you never know when something can be taken away from you and you don't get it again. These moments are precious. And, now I've left my husband. Dance has taken on a new meaning and a new way of healing and processing my new old self. It's myself that's always been there, but it was never really fully expressed. So now my dancing has changed again.
Okay.
And also been used as a tool for healing as well. So
Okay.
it's a lot to unpack.
So we touched upon a little bit the eating disorder. So do you think that kind of started with the dancing and having to be in the leotards or whatever in front of people?
No.
Oh, okay.
But
so
it definitely impacted it
okay.
a lot. So eating disorders are a lot of genetic and also environmental. And they are usually sometimes, I call it like a light switch. So you can have the genetic disposition for it, but it may not get turned on unless you're exposed to some kind of event. So I moved around a lot as a kid. So my eating disorder started when I was like 8 because I couldn't handle moving around all the time and making new friends and the stress from moving and starting over. But dancing didn't help because you are in a leotard. You're in those god-awful pink tights that don't even look like a skin color. And, I was short. I wasn't tall. And you just want to look like these other girls. And, you kind of learn really quickly. You can tell which girls get roles, which ones don't, what you get. I got typecasted growing up in the ballet world, like in my ballet company. I wasn't the most technical dancer, but I was the best performer. So I always got the funny comedic, more acty roles, which is so funny because I ended up becoming a pretty good technician when I got into college. But like even then I was always the dramatic roles, the ones with all like the flair. We're going to give that to Leslie. I mean, I don't know why.
I wish we had video on this episode. There's a lot of hand
emotions.
There's a lot of hand movement.
Anyone who knows me knows of my like crazy hand gestures.
That's a big thing in the Zoom world, in that because my hands are free, I do. And I was recording one yesterday, and it was funny watching me, like my hand almost taking up the entire screen over. And at one point I was like, I almost have to sit on my hands or something. I can't.
Anytime I do my hand gestures now, I think, and someone makes fun of it, I go back to that episode of The Office where Jim tells Dwight to do big sweeping hand gestures. And he reads that speech or whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah. I'm always like, that's what I think of now. But so the eating disorder didn't help, especially when I was in college.
Okay.
Because I felt very inadequate when I was in school. Because there are all these beautiful dancers. And then I started going to professional trainings outside of the area. And you're with people who are actually in dance programs and majoring in dance.
Yeah.
And you are this other. You aren't majoring in dance. You're doing something else. And so you kind of feel like, well, I have to work 10 times harder or to prove myself. I had to constantly prove myself. And I just got to this idea of like, well, if I'm thinner than most other dancers and I have a stronger stamina, I can last longer and I can do all these other things. If I can look the part, then maybe they'll oversee my technical inability. Because I thought I wasn't a very good technician, which is not the case. But that brain set kind of warps your view.
Yeah.
So it definitely impacted a lot, especially as like a coping mechanism because, you don't feel like you're good enough. And then just the other image, I was getting from other areas in my life and not feeling like I could control my life. Because it comes down a lot of times, eating disorders are a lack of control or a want of control. Like you feel like the whole world around you is like against you and there's no sense of control. I
Okay.
can't control what other people think about me. I can't control my family. I can't control XYZ, but I can control what I eat, what I look like, XYZ, all
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's very complicated. That's what makes eating disorders very difficult to kind of unpack, discuss, diagnose, because none of them look the same.
Okay. Yeah.
So you could have 3 people who have anorexia and they're all going to present different.
Right.
There's binge eating, there's bulimia, and there's just scales within each specific disorder. And that's what makes them so deadly too, because so many people suffer in silence. 1 in 4 people suffer from an eating disorder, some form of disordered eating. And, a lot of times people don't look like they have an eating disorder.
Right.
And when I told someone I had one, my doctor was like, "Oh, just eat more," or "You don't have one."
Right.
Being told that you don't have something is okay. But so I think that's what just makes it really hard, is because they are so complicated. They are rampant. They are vast. They have a high mortality rate. And so many people suffer in silence.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're just going to bullshit for a few minutes.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a lot of shit going on.
Yes.
That's so anybody listening, I point at the mic because there's currently a train, an ambulance, and 3 homeless dudes hanging out right next to us. So you're saying important shit, and I don't want it to go. So in the pandemic, we're going to completely switch topics for a few minutes.
Okay. If I wish I would have known the train schedule.
Yeah.
But I can talk about the train here. So that's the reason why Johnson City is bigger than the other 2 Tri-Cities, is because of our train stations, and we were built on the train.
What are the other, Bristol and?
So the Tri-Cities is Bristol and Kingsport and
That's right.
us.
Okay. I always forget. So here's a funny thing. My dad is a truck driver, and this was his regular route for a decade, was coming up to the Tri-Cities.
Yep.
So when I drove up to Mountain City to put in that proposal, he was like, "Can I go with you?" And I was like, "No, Dad. I've got to go see somebody in JC." And then this was a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. As and I need to go on my own. I need to scout. So I kind of scouted around the area. I felt kind of bad, but I was like, I need to be alone in a car for 3 hours on the way up and the way back.
Yeah.
It's good to have that time to where I'm not checking my phone. I'm not looking at email. I'm not doing anything. That's my Zen time, is when I'm not worried about any of that.
Oh, when I'm driving, I have to have music on and sing, or else I fall asleep.
Oh, I also catch up on podcasts. So I just marathoned a bunch of podcasts.
So I can't listen to podcasts while driving.
Really?
I have
I
a very
love it.
hard time. I like to listen to podcasts while I walk.
So I've got friends down in St. Augustine, Florida, and if I just drove straight through, never need to stop for gas or anything, it's 9 hours and 45 minutes. So it ends up actually being like an 11-hour trip, because you got to stop for food, you got to whatever. And the last time I went, I found a podcast that I hadn't listened to in a while, and I just banked and I listened to 10 of them on the way down and 10 of them on the way back up. It was awesome.
That's a lot.
As much as I make a lot of podcasts, I also listen to even more, to where I've had to cut back because I was like, I can't keep doing this.
I'm really weird on my podcast.
So what?
I love a good podcast, but I find most of them kind of horrible.
What? Oh, Jesus.
Because you know what I mean?
But except for Ramblin' Man, right? Ramblin' Man. Thank God. 5 stars. Rated 5 stars, people.
Yes. I think,
what? Do you listen to business or health and wellness? What?
I do not listen to health and wellness podcasts, because I find most of them very steeped in diet culture. I find most of them speak from a place of privilege, and they don't recognize that. And
I don't know what you're talking about. No, none of them would ever. There's one podcast I was listening to that I finally had to turn it off because I was like, you are a multimillionaire. You have to, it wasn't health and wellness. It was a comedy writer. And I was like, you have to stop talking because you're a multimillionaire living in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you're telling people how they should feel. You're out of your damn. And I know I sound like a crazy political nut job, but it was.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the health and wellness field, we talk a lot about trying to, especially those of us who are trying to make a change, the whole bypassing and gaslighting and good vibes only, because yoga, like the yoga realm. And when I say yoga, I want to make like there's yoga as a life and the path, and it's the philosophies. It's not just the physical postures.
Right.
And that's kind of where I tend to align more, is yoga with a capital Y, as my mentor calls it. You know.
So you mean like the lifestyle around
Yes.
it, not just the. See, and I'm more of the.
And I'm gonna go to like it's not just the down dogs and the.
See, I'm more of the
all
movement
this
thing
stuff.
because I have so many injuries from sports that really helps a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, the movement's great,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't realize that there's so much more to yoga. There's so much more that can impact and change your life than the physical side of things.
Right. Well, and I think
And-
it's also the.
And that's
I
where
hate to
sometimes
say
the problem happens.
The flip side of what you were talking about earlier is I like it. So for me, because I don't have that trauma, I like the shutting of the door. The nothing outside can get in here, because I think it's throughout the day, because I've worked for myself for almost 5 years now. Everything is just like inundated. I can never catch up. So having that hour to just zone out and just do that is amazing.
Yeah, and I think there's a nice sweet spot that people can find. I definitely feel like there just needs to be a lot more education, and I think more reintegration of philosophies and ethics and just approach to life that's missed. There's so much richness, as my mentor says. There's a lot of richness and life-changing things. The reason why those of us who teach yoga got into it was because it changed our life in some way. But sometimes when we go to a class, that beauty and that heritage and the culture that yoga came from is kind of wiped out.
Right.
And it's a disservice to yoga and then to our students as well, you know? So I think you have to find that balance and that beauty. Like, I'm going to tell people ask me, well, am I going to get a workout in your yoga class? And I'm going to say, you're going to get a work in. You're going to work. I'm going to make you go in your body.
Okay.
And you're going to work out, but you're going to do that by going within.
Okay.
Where I'm not going to be like, let's torch that fat and burn those calories, because that's against everything that I'm for. And
so wait, are you pro or con hot yoga?
I hate hot yoga.
Okay.
So my thing on hot yoga is, let's make a difference.
This is all hot takes. Nothing but hot takes with Leslie. That's what I'm gonna name this episode.
I have a lot of opinions. Like,
so when are you starting your
known-
podcast?
Okay, so I've been told by countless people for me to have a podcast and just do nothing but talk about my opinions, because I have an opinion on everything. And I can, again, talk about anything and everything.
So I will say, sorry, before you get into hot yoga. So my cousin, who's very analytical, wants to do a podcast to where he has someone on. You'd be a good example. Trauma yoga. He would want you to come on, and he would want to argue on why that's a bad thing. And he was
Pass.
like, so you're getting to my point. So he was like, so let's say somebody is
I hate arguing. It makes me very uncomfortable, and that sounds discomforting, and I would not listen.
Here, I'll use a term, libertarian. Like, he would want somebody come on who is a hardcore libertarian and explain their beliefs to him, and him try to shoot down all of those beliefs. And he was like, and I was like, you're never going to have anybody on. And he may be listening to this. I know he is probably not listening to this, but I'm going to give a shout out to Zach, my other cousin-in-law. Zach is probably listening to this and probably laughing at me right now. But I was like, I don't think anybody would want.
That's not how this works at all.
So anyway, but I think that's funny, because I'm just thinking, oh God, you would be a great guest, because you would end up punching him by the, like, that's my joke is
Just kick him in the face with my
yeah.
big ass
You wear the
shoes.
high. So,
I'm always wearing big ass high heels all the time.
but yeah, you would end up kicking him, although he is kind of tall. So I know
I'm
that's
a
hard.
dancer. My legs can go up pretty high. I
I
can do a high
know
kick.
that's hard to believe. My cousin would be tall, but anyway, sorry. Hot yoga.
Yeah, so I will always preface this with everyone's got a yoga or a movement modality that works for them.
Okay.
And if people like hot yoga and that's what they like to do, I am not going to poo-poo on them.
Okay.
If that's what they want to do,
Okay.
fine. I will support you. I may not agree with it, and my reasons for not agreeing with it are pretty solid.
Okay.
But I also want to say we need to make a differentiation if we're talking about Bikram or we're talking about just regular hot yoga. So, and we do know about Bikram Chandri, right? Yes.
A little bit.
Yes. So he's a bad man,
Yeah.
and we do not want to support a predator and a nasty, nasty man.
Creep. Yeah.
Yes. So that no one should just even don a Bikram or say they do Bikram.
Okay.
In my opinion, because anyways.
This entire podcast is your opinion. That's fine. You don't have to preface or intus or whatever you say.
But so regular hot yoga, I'm not a fan of because I think it's touted a lot as detoxing and superior and stuff like that. When in fact, hot settings can be very not advantageous for your body.
Okay.
So people like me who have a nervous system disorder, woohoo, yay, pots, and things of that nature, very hot doing physical activity in a very hot room is not a good time.
Okay.
I'm going to get sick the minute I step into a room. I'm going to pass out. Like, it's not good.
Okay.
Also, certain medications can interact with hot yoga
Okay.
and cause, delayed response.
Well, and a lot of people, this is a simple, stupid thing. A lot of people don't drink enough water. And
Yep.
I think a lot of people don't think about prepping for doing that. It's like, you're going to sweat a shit ton. You need to drink water. Like,
Yeah, so I just think there's a lot, and I mean, read research, read science. There's a lot of disadvantages about working out in a hot environment.
yeah.
So it's not just, it's actually worse. It's not that great for your body. So that's the reason why I'm not very much into it. And also, too, just because I know there are a lot of people who go into a studio and they're on medications, and I'm like, it's not the best.
Yeah.
And their doctor's not telling them this. Most yoga teachers don't even know that. I'm kind of, again, blessed in my background and having knowledge in that area where I know how certain medications interact with certain things. And so I just think sometimes you just have to be a little bit more aware. And yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go back now to where we were at before we got interrupted. Good Lord.
I think we're talking about eating disorders.
We're talking about eating disorders.
And how prevalent they are, and they need to be taken seriously, and there's a lot to be done in that realm.
And you were talking about, you said you didn't feel like technically you were the best, but you could outdo them by being
thin. Yep.
and
Thin and cute.
and emotive or dramatic or whatever the word is.
Life for the flair. Like, I don't know.
The
I had a
flair.
lot of flair. I'll never forget one time I went to an audition for a scholarship. I just did on a whim. I was like, I'll just try this anyways. Like, we'll see if I get it. And it was 3 parts. It was ballet, modern, and jazz. And
Okay.
ballet was first, and ballet has never been my strong suit. I'm a better teacher than I am a dancer when it comes to ballet because I had to
Okay.
work so hard to get that technique.
Yeah.
And so I understand that technique because it did not come natural to me like other forms of dance did. I had to work super duper hard. And I totally botched that part. Like, I mean, it was a hot mess. And I was like, well, shit. Like, little 18-year-old Leslie. And I'm just like, well, this is like, okay. I just could not bounce back. And which I didn't know I had anxiety at the time. I just thought that was normal. But then the second part was modern and then jazz. So my 2 wheelhouses. And I'll never forget, I went to, after the audition, I went up to individually thank each of the teachers.
Yeah.
And, say, hey, thank you for this opportunity. I'm really glad I got to audition and, got to take something from you.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one of the jazz instructor, Alan Arnett. And he was like, you're a ballroom dancer, aren't you? And I was studying ballroom at the time as well. And he was like, you just have so much flair and you're just a very big personality when you dance. And I was like, okay, cool. And that kind of just always followed me anytime I went anywhere. Was people always like, you're like this little body with such a big personality and a big voice, and you dance really big on stage. And I'm like, so it's good to always get noticed. And so I just kind of use that, you know.
So did you
got to be thin and emotive and be lots of flary. Okay. And
Did
cute.
you get that?
I did.
Even though you botched the ballet. Did you actually botch the ballet, or do you just feel like you botched the ballet?
So I totally screwed up one combo. Wasn't a dodge. No, because I liked a dodge. So that was my strength. It was some across the floor. It was some center thing. And I was like, okay. And then I just couldn't get back in the rhythm for the rest of the ballet class. But yeah, I ended up getting, I was one of the 3 recipients. There's 3 of us. And I ended up getting it.
Okay.
Totally not expecting it.
Okay.
Because there were so many other great dancers in there. And I just showed up because I was like, why not? This sounds cool.
Oh, my God. Do you think maybe it was because you were so good at the other 2 that some people were just okay at all 3 as opposed to you were really good at 2 of them? Or do you think it was the flair that you brought to it?
So I found out that the jazz person who really liked me sought out one of my directors, one of my professors who was there with us, and they were talking about me. And it was because of my stage presence, and they could tell that I loved dancing and movement and how expressive I was. And that was one of the biggest things that a lot of other people in the audition didn't have. And that always served me when I was dancing, was that was always a constant feedback from anyone I've worked with. Was always, they're like, you just love to dance. It comes out when you're moving.
Okay.
So
you got that.
But at the time when I was 18, I didn't know how strong of a compliment that was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course.
And how, even though I would get comments like that all the time, I wanted it to be about my technique. I wanted it to be about these other things that I thought was more important. But, you know, you then begin to realize, you know, people see passion. And that's what people want. And then so again, that influenced how I taught. As I was teaching these kids, I don't care. I will preface, technique is great. You need technique. But I don't want to watch a technician with no soul.
Okay.
I would rather watch someone who's a little less technical, but when they're dancing or they're singing or they're playing an instrument, that they are facilitating it. I'm like, it's coming from within and it's coming out.
So, do you know
it's so much beautiful. It's so much more beautiful to watch, and it's captivating. And those are usually the people who end up doing very, very well.
Do you know the band Rush? Have you heard of the band Rush?
Yes,
Tom
they're from
Sawyer,
the 80s. Okay,
70s,
yes, Tom
80s.
Sawyer. I was about to be like, aren't they the one that has the song where it's like all the literary references?
Yes. So here's the funny thing. I can't stand Rush. God love them. But there's a buddy of mine that got really into them. And he gave me all their albums. This is back when you would exchange MP3s or CDs. And he gave me all their albums to listen to. So I'm sitting there at work and I'm listening through, and I made it like 2.5 albums deep, and then I had to shut it off. I was like, this is awful. And he was like, yeah, but they're so technically proficient. I was like, but they don't sound like they care. I was like, my favorite singer of all time is Otis Redding, who's a tremendous...
Try a Little Tenderness is my jam.
But he's a tremendous singer, but he will break every once in a while. But you tell he can...
Coffee and Cigarettes is another good jam. No one knows about Coffee and Cigarettes.
This guy.
Such a great song.
So in my iTunes, it's the #1 played song.
Just sitting with my baby, talking over cigarettes and drinking coffee.
So I actually had... When I really start deep diving on that song, you know, you're growing up and you have this list of like, this is what I want in a partner. And they're hit a point. I was listening to that song.
And it's all wrong.
There was a point where I was listening to that. Well, I think mine is not. I think what I wanted at 22 or 23 is still pretty. Here, I'll get to that in a second. But I was listening to Cigarettes and Coffee, and I was like, you know what? That's what I want. Somebody who that when it's 1:30 in the morning, I was like, I want to go to Waffle House. That they're like, fuck yes, let's go. I was like, that's it. That's all that fucking matters. No, when I was young, I'm trying to remember. I had 3 things. One of them was somebody who wants. I don't want to say wants to succeed, but wants to.
Someone's not going to sit on their ass.
Somebody who's smart. Somebody who wants to move forward in life. And the reason why is because I had an opportunity to date somebody who worked at a gas station. And I mean, no offense to that. But I was like, they are just fine doing that. I was like, that's not my personality. I could never deal with that. But that was 2 of the 3 things. I was like, I still think that's pretty accurate. Someone who's smart, because I got to have a conversation. There was one point where I was dating a woman who was very ridiculously attractive, was going to veterinarian school, was brilliant when it came to that, but everything outside of that, like literally I would start talking to me about Rush, and I'm going to imitate this person. This is just for you. Nobody listening. So, or talk to me about...
I don't know a lot about Rush, but I can talk about music. So it's like what some of the teenagers do when I start talking to them.
Or I say like dog, like what a dog does.
Yeah.
Like I would talk to her about something like just movies, and it would be like, and I just joked with pretty. So pretty. It's like and there were friends that were like, you have to break up. I was like, I will, but I'm also 23, so this is fine. This is fine.
I can make do with someone who's cute and vapid.
But that kind of set up that. I think it's because those things that I wanted were built on. There was a reason behind them that I was like, no, I think that still stands.
I mean, and I agree. I think that's the reason why when I talk about my marriage, Leslie at 23 made the right decision for her and the right choice. For me, getting married was my right decision. And that's what I needed at the time. I don't regret getting married at all. I mean, I kind of wish I would have waited a little bit later and lived a little bit more life so I would have known more of who I was. I don't regret it. He's a great man. We had some good times together. And, but I'm no longer that 23-year-old.
Right.
And I also think and some of my other friends, we've talked about this as those of us who have re-entered the dating scene because we've either had a divorce, cut off an engagement, or whatever it was. There are things we know when we got involved with that first person that we still want. There are reasons why we were with X person for so long.
Right.
There are certain qualities and characteristics that you like, but then you also realize, I sure as hell don't want any of this, and it's like this long, and it's way longer than like the positives.
Yeah.
So I definitely know. I was talking to someone the other day who I recently met, and he's came from a similar situation, and it was like the only way you really figure out what you really want is by dating more.
Oh yeah.
And getting out there.
Oh because he probably won't listen to this. It's kind of interesting. I'd be curious to hear what you think. If you go back, there are 2 episodes I did on telling dating stories, my dating stories, because I'm 42, never been married, been close 2 or 3 times, but nothing. So I've dated a shit ton, and there's a lot of hilarious stories. There's a lot of sad stories, and there's a lot of sad stories I've turned hilarious. So I did 2 episodes that are almost like 7 hours of content. My friend Krista interviewed me, and a buddy of mine recently got drunk and decided to tell me what an asshole I sounded like on those podcasts. And then I asked other people who'd listened to it, because all I'd gotten was, this is going to sound braggy, all I'd gotten was praise that those were the 2 best episodes.
Yeah.
Because they were funny and heartfelt.
Well, I think it's something
open.
I think it's something that everyone can relate to. So I got asked, this weekend, what's it like dating again? after you were married for so long. Or I was with my ex-husband a grand total of 10 years.
Yeah.
We dated for 3, and then we were married for 7. And they're like, what's it like now?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it kind of sucks.
Oh, yeah. It's terrible.
It's kind of fun. It mainly sucks. Like, so me and my single friends, we send each other memes. I sent one to one of my friends last night that was like, you know, Tinder is like the CVS dollar bin, and you're just swiping right because you're like, oh, hey, it's only $1. You know, like it. And me and my girlfriends talk about like how horrible dating profiles are, which also my dude friends and I talk about dating profiles.
So I'll tell you 2 quick things. I have a private group on Facebook called Tinderlicious where I just post funny shit I see on there. And I have there's a lot of people.
How many of them are dudes with fish pictures? Stop it with the fish pictures.
So that's the funny part is
girls don't want that.
I'm friends with more women than men. So most of that group is women. And a lot of those women have been posting stuff. So
I get so tired. So I'm never on them. Because I find them droll. Sometimes, I mean, they're entertaining as fuck. Like, let's be honest here, especially in East Tennessee. Like,
oh yeah,
there's some real humdingers. So sometimes me and my girlfriends will just like, and I know dudes do this too, because my dude friends talk about screenshotting and sharing things with each other and roasting people. But I'm never really on them because I get bored because I'm just tired of swiping left all the time. I'm tired of the same ass like fish pictures, like pictures with a tractor.
So here, that's because you're up here. But here, I'll tell you a funny thing. Is of a friend in Cleveland, Ohio, who's pretty, she is more forthright than you. Like, so she is pretty hardcore. She's awesome, Hannah. And she said, because I deleted the apps for a long time during the quarantine, she's like, re-download one of them, send me screen grabs of your profile. She was like, I want to improve it for you. And I sent it to her, and she was like, holy shit, never mind. You're great. Because I was like, yeah, I've done this before. I have other female friends. So the first image, oh, God, hold on. I'll have to pull up, like, the first image. Oh, I'm a genius.
Oh, and so this is funny. So I did swipe right on this one dude. And I wait till they message me because I don't like.
Although you can't do that on Bumble. So that is the first picture.
That's a great picture. That is so good.
It's me and a tiny cat that Sean took.
Like, that's a great picture.
They were fostering cats. And my friend, who is a cat person, Hannah, was like, holy shit, I was like, yeah, I've gotten a lot of connections because of that photo.
Yes. And one time I swiped right on this guy, and I was like, oh, hey, by the way, your dog is really cute. Oh, thanks. That's my ex's dog. I just look good in that picture. So I kept it. And I'm like, thank you for your honesty. You could have just lied at the same time or just get rid of it. But yeah, I mean, there's no shame in using animals.
So that cat, I get a lot. So it's like, how big is that cat? I was like, honestly, it's my friend's cat. They were fostering cats.
That sounds better than that's my ex's.
Yeah. I was like, no.
I get that. That's a big one. Well, it's just my ex's cat. That's my ex's dog.
And I think for the most part, I joke and say, my buddy is a professional photographer, took that photo, and there's no way in hell I'm not putting that on here. And I've gotten a lot of laughs and a lot of continued connection based on that.
Yeah, and I think that's the big. Oh, okay. So besides the fish picture,
yeah. Oh,
guys need to learn how to stop taking the low angle selfie.
yeah.
Like the one that's like down here. I know the phone is in your lap. And also stop with the bathroom mirror selfie.
In their car, too. I know that's a big thing.
And it's the car down low selfie.
Here you go. I'll let you look. So that's one.
Oh, look, you actually have information on your profile. That's nice.
Oh, yeah. That's me drinking
out of a
Jaws. And you can't see it, but it's Golden Girls Rum Club in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
I hate photos of myself. So, there's Dale.
Well, I mean, it pays to have Sean take your picture.
Yeah. Speaking at the Bijou.
Yeah. So, see, like, that's a good profile because your pictures are professional. You actually have answered a few questions.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's what kills me is how many people on there, women, and I know dudes, everybody, but do not have any info. And I can't tell you how many times I've connected with somebody with zero info and tried to start a conversation. They're like, "Oh, but you just said hi," and I was like, "Well, I have nothing to, like, you know."
So you know what I wish? You know what's wrong with dating apps?
Here we go. The finger is point. God, I wish I had. This was on video. I'm getting the finger point.
Is there needs to be a maybe pile.
Okay.
Like, you swipe right, I like you. Left, no. Swipe up for maybe. Let me come back to you later.
So a buddy of mine.
Because, like, there are profiles you're like, I may be into this person, but I don't know because I want to see what else is out there. But they're not, like, you're just not sold to go one way or the other.
So a buddy of mine.
We need a maybe pile.
Very early on in Tinder, he told me, he was like, I'm going to give you advice. He's like, if it's a maybe, swipe right because you can always unmatch. He's like, you don't want to.
I have yet to figure out how to unmatch on Tinder, but like I said, I've only been on there twice in my whole entire year, so
yeah, I can
pointless.
tell you. It's.
I'm super picky anyway, so like, chances are me matching with someone who swipes right on me is like impossible.
The funniest.
So when I tell people,
yeah,
that like, and we've matched, and I'm like, do you know how like lucky you are?
Yeah. I will
because
say,
I will swipe right on 50 people and you may be 51.
So have you gotten on Hinge? Hinge is the best one.
Well, so see, I heard that's like for serious relationships.
Oh, well.
I don't want like a relationship.
I think all of them it's a shit show. All of them it's whatever you make of it. Because I think even on there you can put you can denote what you want.
Yeah, I've heard good things from Hinge. Like one of my friends, he met his current girl on Hinge.
It has a lot better questions, prompts.
I'm just like I said, I've only been on Tinder twice, and I think I last a grand total of 1 hour.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Because I get bored as fuck. Because I'm like, no one's interesting, and like I'm tired of seeing the same ass pictures all the time. I don't know. Whatever. And I just rather meet people out, but I can't do that because of coronavirus. But
yeah.
Well, I have kind of done that.
Even that.
I have met people out before, but I also just like talk to anything and anyone.
So here's the other problem with being a giant dude, and I keep getting fussed at by female friends for this. Is I realize I'm big and intimidating. So I always feel like I have to put people at ease, and I've gotten fussed at by certain people for that, and other people are like, "No, I understand." It's like because I can't just you're 5'1", you said,
yeah,
and maybe 90 pounds soaking wet. Like I'm 6'7" and 285. If you were in a bar and I was like, "Hey, how's it go?" Like, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and it's like. And people, so here's the thing. I think a lot of people think they have game too, and they don't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been out a while, but your girl ain't stupid, and I have more game than most people out there. Like, I'm really good at reading people. This library is always open, and I will shut you down. So, like, I'm a lot of fun, but also I'm, like, very hard to impress.
Oh, there's a lot of times where I'll do it because I know I'll get a story out of it. Like, I don't care. Like, it's so funny.
I know. How are you?
Yeah.
Yes. Are you surprised that I am doing a podcast? Well, I mean, it's his podcast, but I'm talking on it.
Not at all.
How can you recognized me? Is it the voice?
Well, I got to when you hang out with somebody for 180 days, you remember people. So.
Yes.
But I'm blanking his name.
Leslie.
Last name.
It was Hughes back then. Yes. And my hair wasn't blue, but the voice and the laugh is still the same. Good to see you too. Thank you.
It's called Ramblin' Man. No G. Yeah. Thank you.
Nice to see you too.
So I just got 2 new subscribers. Thank you for that.
I could sell anything. I used to sell rocks and tail bags as a kid.
Oh, man. Let me see.
I can do all sorts of stuff. I'm a really good salesperson.
I'm just writing down the time. I may not edit that out, but I may also.
But I could actually talk about that teacher. So if that would be interesting.
Oh, was that a teacher of yours?
Yes. That
Okay.
was one of my favorite teachers.
He did not look old enough to be your teacher. Wait, college teacher or high school
High
teacher?
school.
Really?
Yeah. I'm 32. You know that, right?
I know, but he also looked like 35. Like,
Yeah. So that was my AP English teacher.
okay.
His name was Mr. Jolly, and I loved his class. He played music when he would walk in, and there was always like fun music playing. He had a coffee pot, and like we could drink coffee while listening to music, and we did a lot of poetry, and I'll never forget, like, he was really instrumental in, I was really big into writing poetry at the time, and I wanted to be a poet and a writer, and he was really good at kind of jump-starting me into that and introducing me to poetry. And that's also when I started getting into the beatniks, and that's my whole... That's my favorite writers, my favorite poets. A lot of my philosophy is very much, I love the beatnik. So that is late 50s, early 60s precursor to the hippie generation.
Oh, yeah.
For those who do not know, a lot of people don't know there's a difference
I think
between
I have.
beats and hippies.
I never got into Ginsberg.
Mm.
I think I've read everything except for one book, maybe two from Kerouac.
So On the Road is like my life book.
On the Road is great. I love the Dharma Bums. That's my sleeper.
Yes.
That's my sleeper one.
Yes.
That a lot of people don't know about. It's the same way. I find that with a lot of writers like Steinbeck. Everybody knows like the big two or three, but he had one called The Wayward Bus, which is fantastic.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's great. And now I'm going to... Michael Chabon, he's a more modern writer. He wrote The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay that won, I think, a Pulitzer. But he had another book, Mysteries of Pittsburgh. That's fantastic. That feels... I think you would like Mysteries of Pittsburgh because it feels almost like a modern Kerouac. It feels like
love
modern
it.
Kerouac.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Even my Instagram post last night was captioned by Charles Bukowski, who is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So
I think I've only read 2 or 3 of his books because there's so many and they're so dense
yes,
that I would read them on my lunch break when I worked at the print shop, and it was just like, this is too much to take
But
for
yeah,
30
so-
minutes a day.
we had to do a poetry reading one time, and I've always had to be different. Even when I was a
No.
kid, I had to like not do what everyone else was doing.
Shocker.
I know, right? Like, it pays to be an individual, but sometimes it kind of sucks. But we had to do this coffee shop thing where we had to read a poem that we wrote and a poem that we liked. And, you know, a lot of the kids, you know, they're picking things, the stuff we read in class.
Right.
Like, they're going to pick an Emily Dickinson. They're going to pick, but she's great.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I love Pablo Neruda. Give me a Pablo Neruda sonnet any day, the way to my heart. Read me love poetry. Sing me a song. Like,
All I'm hearing is Tinder content. This is all the stuff.
Oh, my Tinder tagline is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and a whole lot of fun. Trying to throw a little bit of Donnie Marie Osmond
Oh, my
out there
God.
to see if anyone would get it. My Tinder
Yeah.
theme song was American Girl by Tom Petty. And my friend was like, you're just going to get all those hipster boys. And I'm like, okay, good.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's no hipsters here. But anyways, I read Michael.
You'll get plenty of those from Boone. How far away is Boone?
90 minutes.
Okay. You can.
And
Anyway, poetry.
yes, I
sonnets.
read Michael McClure's Borrowed Feet.
Oh yeah.
And one of my favorite lines is, we are just glorious blobs of meat. And like, really was that appropriate for it was a poem definitely about sex. And so
Yeah.
and it's not like it wasn't a beautiful love song like Pablo Neruda, right? That's like very romantic and kind of
Right.
a romantic love. Like this one was just blatant.
Yeah.
And but
yeah.
I just remembered like glorious blobs of meat because I love that line. Like our bodies are just two glorious blobs of meat, something like that. And I remember everyone just kind of looking at me like this is the most strange poem. And it's like, love me for who I am, love me on borrowed feet. That was another line I really liked as well too. But yeah, I definitely picked a random ass poem, but I got really into the reading. I was just like super into it. And I think my poem that I wrote was about my eating disorder, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But I do love to write a good poem here and there.
Sorry, I have a client that is being a little bit of a persnickety pain, and I just wanted to see. I saw I had an email from them, and I was like, can you please give me any direction other than, can you make it more interesting? It's like, that doesn't tell me anything on a logo. Make it more interesting.
Well, that can mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
Do you want some color? Different font choice?
So I ended up...
Don't you... fonts.
You're turning the tables on me.
Like...
The interviewer is becoming the interviewee.
So... fonts get me. Like, people and their, like, font choices.
Yeah.
Like, either A...
It bothers you to see shitty fonts?
Like, either A, they aren't hiring someone. They're doing it themselves.
Oh, yeah. That happens
or
all the
two,
time.
whoever they're hiring to make their marketing content needs to, like, go jump off a cliff and do something else.
I find it funny. It's behind the pole, but on either side, I've been staring at a business called JC Mail, which is cracking me up because Jody Collins Mail. I should go over there and say, hey, I own this place. But the place to the left and the place to the right are the exact same font and style. Like, look at that. It's that narrow font.
You know, I never really noticed that, but I drive past this every day.
With the text underneath and the same curved. I was like, that's cracking me up.
But, like...
Although that
I get
Tri-City
really annoyed.
Appliance is gorgeous. I
Yes.
love that.
And that's a very old building. But, yeah, so, like... Because that's the original paint. That building was there even when I was a kid and I grew up here. And it hasn't changed. But, yeah, I get annoyed with fonts. So I'm also, like... Because I think if you're into business, you can't help but know a little bit about marketing.
Yeah.
And like, so my business cards like are very particular. Like I'm very websites drive me batty. Like this is not even my strong point, but like certain colors just don't belong together. Certain font choices. Like I hate crazy fonts. I'm a Georgia. Everything is Georgia. Like my brand, I like Georgia. It's not quite Times New Roman.
Right.
But it's still clean and it's legible, stands out. It's very classic. I'm not trying to be, and I do everything lowercase because I got to be a little edgy, a little different. I love to do lowercase. But God, yes, I get so, I get so miffed.
I fussed at one of my friends. She posted that she was looking for a job. And I went and looked. Her and her husband, they have a business together where they publish books. Mm-hmm. He's an artist. She's a writer. And they publish these. He's a tremendous artist. So I looked at his website. I looked at their website for their publishing company. And I was like, please let me redo your websites. No one is ever going to be able to find you. Your SEO is awful. It's all photos. There's no text. Nobody knows who the hell you are. I was like, your website looks like Instagram. Please let me fix this for you. And she had to ask him, like, can we let Jody redo this? And I got a message this morning. It's like, okay, we're going to let you start with the publishing. I was like, oh, I'm not asking. I'm telling you. I'm going to, because I want you all to succeed. And I want to help you all succeed.
And, like, two people to understand, like, cursive fonts, script fonts need to die. They don't belong.
Ramblin' Man is a very ornate.
But yours is bold, though.
Yes.
It's a bold,
oh, you're
legible.
talking about wedding fonts.
Yeah, so like a more cursive-y kind of
Yeah.
fonts that are a thin
Frilly.
line.
Yeah,
yes,
frilly.
a thin line and not thick and bold.
Yeah.
I don't know why people choose them. I'm like, because I can't read them. But a lot of people forget, too, people who have like vision impaired or maybe have trouble with
Yep.
their sight, font choice is really, really critical in the colors you use. So, because I talk a lot about being accessible and accessibility when it comes to things, and that's a part of being accessible. If you say you're an accessible business, is like your marketing and like, can people easily read?
Yeah.
And there are certain fonts, that are easier to read than others. So it's like, why don't you just stick with something that like is not very distracting? You can still have a cool graphic and do a cool font, but I think a lot of people forget that being simple is sometimes the best kind of marketing.
Oh yeah.
You
Simple
don't need
and clean and
crazy-ass
direct.
fonts.
Yeah.
Yes.
That job that I sent to my friend, another friend sent it to me, and I was like, I can't understand. There's too much marketing language in this job opening. I don't know what this job is for.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was like, oh yeah, that's so and so. He's got to be different. He's got to. I was like, can he just say what the job is for? Because it reads to me as like a call center job.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, it's not that. I was like, well, that's what it reads because it's all marketing bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And he invented names like, we need a unicorn. I was like, no, tell me what you need.
Oh yeah, that's the lingo.
So,
yeah.
okay, so we're going to go back. We're going to jump off of marketing.
That's how my brain works all the time.
Eating disorder. So you haven't. Here's a weird question. Is it something you always have? Is it something you can recover from? Is it something wired in your brain that you feel like you always have to fight against?
So some people say it can be fully recovered. I don't agree with that. I say I'm in recovery, but I still have a long ways to go in my journey.
Okay.
Because recovery is a choice every day. I choose whether or not I track my calories. I, weigh myself. I obsess over the food I'm going to eat or not eat or count my calories, whatever it is. Do I work out today or not? Well, I ate this. Can I go out and eat this with my friends later and not feel guilty? I choose that every day. And you kind of, as time goes, hopefully you learn to make better choices. And I've understood where my eating disorder comes from and what purpose it serves. And so I try and use my new coping skills and new techniques to kind of keep relapse at bay. Last year was a struggle.
It
But,
was the pandemic.
It's the pandemic. I left my husband, starting over.
Yeah, that too.
All of these things.
Holy shit! Yeah.
I didn't. Life was not easy last year.
Wait. Okay. Did you leave your husband before or after March 13th?
So.
And if you don't want to talk about it,
no,
it's totally
I will
fine.
gladly talk about it because me and him even talk about it. The months we were in quarantine, so it became official in June. But I decided to leave him in May. Finally decided because I had 3 weeks before he was moving to Florida, and he was like, I kind of need an answer now. But we were quarantined together, and we said those were the best months we've had in years.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because we were forced to. We were going through a pretty intense couples counseling at the time. We had an incredible therapist, but when we were forced to work on our shit as individuals and as a married couple, and we were forced to get along, be kind. Is there a bug or something?
No. I'm sorry. There is one up there, but.
Oh, okay. I was like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's a statue thingy. Oh, okay.
No, it's I heard.
No, it's a statue.
Yeah.
Die. Okay.
No,
So-
I heard the dog, and I can see people in the reflection of my glasses. So I was like, "What in the hell is that?"
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I keep doing that during this. I'm like, "What is coming?"
And the
So
thing is,
here's-
I've never noticed that before.
Here's a weird thing. I didn't notice it until 30 minutes ago. Here's a weird thing. I grew up kind of rough, so this is not great for me. Oh, there it is. And having my back exposed like this really bothers me.
Oh, so we We should have switched sides.
No, I'm totally fine. No, it's
So again, but so we can read that back into things about how trauma and your nervous system works.
Yeah.
So that's something that that I would need to take into consideration is that's a big thing. That idea of someone coming behind you, if you've had a previous exposure to something where something bad happened to you like that, understanding. Maybe that's why some people like to be in the back of the room where their back are against the wall and they can see everything in front of you because they can see no one's coming to get me. I'm safe.
When I walk
it's all about our polyvagal in your vagal system. It's all about what we can do to feel safe and secure in our bodies and
I
our
think
surroundings.
it's like when I go into a place, I know how I will exit.
That's smart.
Like I've just had to have been aware.
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny, being a big dude, I have this stock phrase I use, which is 45% of dudes are terrified of me. 45% of dudes want to fight me to prove they're a man. And 10% don't give a shit, and those are my friends.
Yeah.
So I have been in situations where I'm very aware. To where there was one night I was walking through Maryville, and there were two dudes standing outside smoking in a bar. Both of them were drunk. I could tell because one of the dudes was wavering, and he was a tiny dude, and he wanted to fight me. And I knew he wanted to fight me. So when I passed him, I knew to look in the window to see if he was coming at me.
Mm-hmm.
And he had turned around. And I almost turned back around and said, this is not going to end well for you, brother, because I am not drunk. You're drunk. I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to throw you into the road.
Yeah.
Because I will end this. You will not. I was so, but it's a weird thing having to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Having to go into a situation going, okay, that guy wants to fight me because he needs to prove he's a man. Whereas I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't care. I have nothing to prove. I don't give a shit. But I also have put myself in situations where I have stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine and I were talking about doing one of these, because when we were in college and right after college, we went to a ton of heavy metal shows. And he was like, I've seen you literally, a guy go to hit a girl and you grabbed him, picked him up and put him into a wall. It's like, oh yeah, that happened. That's happened a lot where I've felt the need to step in the middle of bad situations with dudes and gals.
Well, at least you're there.
And it's funny. I don't know. It's kind of funny to me at this point how much that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
There was one guy, I still remember his gal went up on stage and the lead singer was a creep and he forced kissed all three of the women that were up there. I was like, well, that's a problem. I'm going to have a hard time not jumping up on stage and kicking the shit out of that dude. But one of the women came down and her boyfriend got in her face. And I just walked over and leaned over to him. I was like, before you even raise your hand to hit her, I will end you. It will be lights out for you. And he walked away. And the part of me is like, the woman didn't even say thank you. She just stood there. I was like, really? Come on, man. I was like, but I just leaned over. And what's funny is I was with two buddies of mine, and I looked back at them. I was like, just nodded, and they were like, I was like, if we're doing, because he had other friends with him. I was like, I got him, you got them, without even saying a word. It's hilarious. It's
Crazy.
Hilarious to me at this point how often it's happened. It's happened in the last 2 years. I walked out of Barley's and had to pick up a dude to separate him and his girl because they were drunk in the parking lot. And the minute I reached around him and squeezed him and lifted, the minute his feet came off the ground, he started saying, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. And I was like, it's fine. You two have to stop.
Yeah.
I'm not going. And she started cussing at me and putting her finger in my face. And I just started squeezing him tighter. He was like, honey, please stop. Honey, please stop. Honey, please stop.
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyway.
A lot.
So, eating disorder, can you get over it?
Yes.
It's a day-to-day, or it's different from person to person?
So I think everyone's got their own opinions, but I firmly believe that recovery is a choice, and recovery from anything is the hardest thing someone can do. And at the end of the day, it's all addictions, and it's all very similar, except we just decide to. Some people use alcohol, some people use drugs, some people, don't eat, work out too much, or some people eat too much. Just depending. We're all at the end of the day trying to cope and work on it, but we wake up every day and we decide, are we giving into those old habits, our old selves,
Right.
or are we continue to choose this life, living a more fulfilled life, and do what we need to do. So I think, and it's there are days that's easier than others.
Okay.
And I'm not perfect. I just feel like I'm in quasi recovery most of the time, but and I know how strong I am in my recovery impacts a lot of how I'm teaching and whether or not I feel like I'm a good teacher or not. So when I'm teaching or working, I'm very open and honest about my problems, and I share my story a lot because it's a part of who I am, and it helps relate to others. And it just keeps me connected, and also making sure that I'm doing my work as well too. So if I'm honest with my clients, it kind of keeps me in check. Hey, I need to do my own work, or if I'm not doing my work.
So do you think, is getting your master's now kind of helping you with the, I don't want to say counseling side, but
I really
giving
need to
you
get
a
back into
firmer
therapy.
base in that?
No, because it's different things.
Okay.
So I'm working on, community and behavioral health is looking at health interventions and strengthening communities through public health.
Okay.
Um,
So it's more widespread than individual.
right.
Okay.
And I mean, I've been meaning to get back into therapy because your girl desperately needs it, but
Jeez.
kind of been slacking a little bit, so I need to get on it. But new insurance is throwing a wrench into things. So
Yeah, that's the thing. I had that discussion with somebody the other day. I was like,
I hate my new insurance plan.
I can't. This is going to sound nuts, which is funny considering what we're talking about. I can't justify therapy because I feel like the things I know that are wrong or that I need to work on are things I already know about. So just talking about them in my brain is like, that's not helping. I got to actually figure out a way to work on them as opposed to just talking about working on them.
So you get tools to help you work on it. So there's a lot of people get wrong about therapy and counseling. They think it's just talking about stuff, but you're working with someone that is actually helping you, give you tools and stuff that you need to work through the things, or why you're reacting the way you're doing, like why we react in these certain situations, or why we have these coping mechanisms, or we behave this way. Kind of unpacking where this comes from and the why behind it, and then giving things to do to either bring more self-awareness when you're in that situation, how to act, not react.
Okay.
Things of that nature. So it's actually, and also someone who's an unbiased opinion. They don't know you. They don't.
Right.
All they know is what you're telling them, and so they can give you some guidance and how to navigate some of these situations.
Okay. I'm still not sure. It's one. I don't know.
That's a lot of people are, and I still think there's a huge stigma around it.
I think this is again not going to
most
sound
people
normal.
don't understand it.
I think I have friends that when I have problems, I talk to those friends, and I've built friendships that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like going through, like a couple years ago, I went through a really rough breakup, and I always think this is funny. 5 female friends completely shit on me and were not there for me or helpful at all. And then 2 dudes were like the most caring, like, holy shit. 2 of the female friends were like, the woman I dated had been divorced a year and a half. And 2 of the women essentially turned it back to themselves. They were like, oh, you need to be a lot nicer to her. That woman broke up with me. She said, you're just 10% off of perfect for me and did this hand motion after 3 months of dating.
I don't know what any of that means, but that sounds horrible.
So my 2 female friends who are married were like, oh, you need to you need to give her space and be nice to her, because if I got divorced, it'd be really hard. And I was like, I'm the one that got dumped.
Yeah.
It's been 1.5 years since she got divorced, which, no excuse. I was like, also, she put her hand in my face and said, that's like, also, when would I not be nice? Like, it was just a cavalcade of just like, wow, you two are fucking awful.
I mean, women aren't that great.
So,
I mean, I will say that. I mean, women aren't that great. But
so it was funny. And like another friend, like it was the same thing. Like, were telling me how I was wrong. Like one was just like, you should have been more aggressive. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But the 2 dudes were just like, man, whatever you need, let's just talk and let's just.
Yeah.
I was like, you two are the best. Like, how is it the 2 guys or the guys are like, nope, let's go drink and smoke cigars and get through this.
It's a great way to get over things.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think we all have done that.
Well,
I know I did that last year.
But I think, and maybe it's I don't, and I even had somebody on who was a therapist to talk about therapy. And I don't know. I still can't make it click in my brain.
Yeah, and that's all right.
I think the thing that I learned with him that blew my mind was you could go to somebody for a year and then realize they're not right. They're not the right therapist. So it's like,
I've broken up with quite a few therapists in my time.
That's weird to me. Like that it's not a universal thing, that it can be a very, no, this is not working after a year.
Yeah, so I actually had a therapist in Oklahoma City that I didn't really like. I didn't like his style.
Yeah.
But I really just needed someone to talk to and just to unpack stuff.
Okay.
So, and then I eventually said, I need to see someone who works with an eating disorder, and he didn't work in that. We worked a lot on like my perfectionism and some of my compulsions and some other things of that nature. But we didn't really, address body image or anything, 'cause that wasn't his specialty. So I had to leave because I really needed to get my eating disorder back under control. But it was nice, even though he wasn't a fit for me, it was nice for those few months to have someone to talk to, because that's when my marriage started to get a little wonky and a little weird, and things just started changing. So even though he wasn't the right fit, it still was beneficial because I had someone being like, okay, well, actually I got one of my favorite exercises from him that I call it sitting with my shit. But it's a DBT skill that I've used so much. But
what does DBT mean?
It's just a style of therapy.
Okay.
Dialectoral behavior therapy. But it's just when you feel an emotion. So I get angry a lot, but instead of letting your emotions overtake you and kind of get you into a shutdown or rage, you're just acknowledging it.
Okay.
It's also, if you practice Buddhism, this is alignment in Buddhism as well too.
Yeah.
But you acknowledge the thing and you just sit with it and you just keep calling it is what it is, and then eventually it has no power over you. So when I would get angry, I would say, I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry. So instead of it derailing me and keeping me from doing my chores or getting my work done or doing these other things, or start to relapse or spiral or whatever, I was just like, hey, I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry. And then eventually I could just go on my way with my day, even though I was still angry, but just learning to recognize and kind of sit with it and not avoid it, because I love avoiding things. That's why I had an eating disorder and all those other wonderful habits I have. But, to avoid and numb, I was actually just like being forced.
Okay.
So again, it's like when Jeremy and I were quarantined together working on our marriage, we couldn't escape.
Yeah.
We had nowhere to go. He couldn't go out. I couldn't go out. I couldn't be reclusive. We had no choice but to 24 hours a day. Well, except when you're sleeping. But like we had no choice but to face each other, deal with the shit, be loving, be kind, find a way to make it work
Yeah.
while we are also tearing each other apart and we're being broken down. So I think sometimes you just have to do that. You just have to like get up and face your shit and sit with it and deal with it. Like, you know, you're quarantined with someone you desperately love, but you're also mad at them. You're angry at them. You're thinking about leaving them. You know, you're contemplating, am I making the right decision, leaving someone that I love, but I'm not the wife for them. I can't give them what they need.
Right.
And I don't see that changing. Like, I'm a horrible person, but I'm also hurting this person I love, and I practice yoga. That's what my therapist said. He was like, you're a yogi. You practice ahimsa, non-harming. And what are you doing staying married to someone who you know, are not being fully present for, and you're not giving a decision whether you're coming or going,
Right.
you know? And so I think that's the thing. You just have to constantly face everything head on, and recovery is the same way. You know, you are dealing with being uncomfortable. You're dealing with this fact that there's this not so great side of me, but there's also something good within it as well too. And just, you know, when you're faced with that trigger, or, you know, gave myself a stress cold a few weeks ago during midterms, and I was dealing with boy drama and midterm, because there's always boy drama in my life. I'm like, I don't have many boys, but there are cast of characters, as my friends so call them, the cast of characters in my love life.
Oh my God.
They few, but they have some really interesting stories, and they mess your girl up. But, you know, you're dealing with that, and then I'm dealing with school and all these other things, and my divorce is finalized that same week. And even though I felt like, you know, the minute we were separated, we're divorced in our eyes. And
Right.
and so even though you've moved on so much, when you see that person in that Zoom courtroom and you hadn't seen them in over a year, and, you know, then it's become real. Like, it really is it's done now.
Yeah.
It's a different psyche,
Yeah.
even though we had no desire to ever get back together. He left, I left, we're good. But it's something about knowing that's officially over, and that
Right.
bookend was a weird mental psyche. And then you had midterms. I haven't been to school in 10 years. And then I had 3 papers and projects, and, you know, dealing with imposter syndrome.
Right.
And, like, all this stuff just culminating. And I could have easily just been like, I really don't feel like eating today. I really just feel like exercising or doing all this stuff, or, you know, drinking, or, I mean, I can't really drink because I'm with my parents, but, like, you know, whatever.
That reminds me, I got moonshine for you.
And I have the person who was going to house it for me, so we good. I told my friend, funny enough, he's a really great guy. I met him on Tinder.
Oh my God.
And it's so funny.
Here's part of the boy drama.
Apparently, I've been very blessed with, like, the people that I've met, that I've been able to weed out the bad ones and the ones I've met in real life, which I've met 2 from Tinder in real life, and they both were really nice. But this one's a really sweet guy, like, just kind of more like, we're these weird people navigating post-divorce life.
Okay.
And he's religious as well, so having this whole, like, what's divorce like when you grow up in the church. And I'm not, you know, super religious anymore. I'm more spiritual, but he's still, you know, a big part of the church. But, like, something just to kind of talk to, like, it's so fucked up.
Yeah.
And, like, what it does to you, and especially if you have a spiritual background. So sometimes it's just nice. So we just spend a lot of time just kind of, like, being like, and we send each other funny things about Tinder dates. Funny memes about being single and dating, if that says anything. But, like, I told him, I was like, so I'm getting some moonshine for being on a podcast, and I'm going to need you to house it for me.
And not drink it all. Yeah.
And he would, because he's a little country boy. And I was like, so you're going to house it for me.
Okay. We'll go back to serious. So
And he was like, okay.
The Zoom happens, you see him, and you said your thoughts were, I'm not going to eat today, I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to. So do you have
Yes.
to, like, center yourself and step back and go, okay, no, I need to eat. Do I really need to exercise, or do I
Yes.
feel compulsed to do this?
Mhm.
So you do have to center yourself.
Yeah, I have to constantly ask myself, and this is something when I work with my clients as well, I'm kind of anti-weight loss, but anti-weight loss in the way of like, let's unpack why you want to lose weight.
Right.
Not that like losing weight's bad, but like why? Are you doing it because society is telling you to and you feel inadequate at the size you are?
Right.
And like, if so, we need to rework this. We need to reframe this. Like, is it because, hey, you want to get off of medication? You're pre-type 2 diabetic and you don't want to be on medication. You don't want that anymore?
Yeah.
Okay, that's... so I think we need to unpack that. But, I have to ask myself that all the time, too. Like, why am I working out today? Is it because I'm feeling
anxious?
Am I feeling depressed? Am I, compensating because I ate a burger and fries and had like 2 beers last night and I ate the other person's I was with fries because I love fries. I'm a total girl and I will just eat people's fries. Total girl move. So much so that one of my friends in Winston, every time we went out, he would order extra fries or because I would always end up eating his fries. Or he was like, don't even ask, just eat. Like, we got very comfortable and it was so funny. Because I was like, I'm such a girl. And I would take a fry and he'd be like, but yeah, so I have to constantly ask myself, why am I doing this? Because I want to know, because that could lead into a slippery slope. Like I give myself a time limit when I go to the gym, and all these other things to keep myself protected and keeping myself, healthy and doing what I need to do.
It's a weird thing because I think a lot of people don't accept that genetics is also a huge part of it.
Yes.
In that, like, my entire family is a big family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right now, I do not feel comfortable. I wish I was thinner. I will never say a weight because I know weight is bullshit.
Yes.
Because I've grown up with, because I played
it's about how you feel.
Sports so aggressively to where somebody's, I still remember, oh God, I have to get your take on BMI. But I was working for a company.
It's racist and patriarchal, and it really does not mean anything. There you go.
I was working for a company. You'll love this because this fits everything. So I go down. They do the BMI. There's, for anybody listening at home, there's 2 different types of BMI. There's active BMI and sedentary BMI. I don't know if that's technically what they're called, but I know that's what. There's 2 different kinds, and they had me as the sedentary one, not the active one. I was like, no, I still lift weights. I still hike. I still do all this stuff. Their measurement would only go up to 6'5". It did not go to I'm 6'7.5".
Yeah.
Would not go to 6'7", but they kept my weight at exactly the same.
Yeah.
So they ended up they ended up saying you have to lose 50 pounds.
And this also for an insurance thing as well, too?
Yes.
Okay.
So
that's a bunch of bullshit,
goes
too.
into
I'm not even going to get on that soapbox.
The wellness person who worked at that company was insane and had eating disorders because she had a baby. And within a week of having that baby, she was running 10 miles on the track. And I was like, I'm a dude, and I know that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Like, doctors will tell you that is not healthy. You do, because she was already worried about having to lose the weight. Mm-hmm. And, like, she was tall and probably weighed 100 pounds. But anyway, cut off the 50 pounds.
It's a problem.
I went up and told, but that shouldn't be who's running your wellness department at your major corporation. Somebody who is unhealthy in their own. Anyway, that's my own little soapbox. But I went up to one of the engineers because they had a thing where if you didn't lose that weight or weren't on track to lose that weight, you were going to get penalties and have to pay more on your insurance, which is bullshit.
I totally agree, and I hate those programs, and I wish they would die, but,
So I talked to one of my engineers, and I walked up, and I said, yeah, I just got told I'm supposed to lose 50 pounds, and he looked at me, he's like, where? I was like, I think if they just cut the leg right here at the hip, that's probably about 50 pounds right here that they get rid of.
And I think that's, like, the horrible thing is, like, they just put so much things on these numbers, and, a big component about being anti-diet or health at every size is that, like, knowing you can be healthy at really any size and what is health. Health is not a number.
Yeah.
And, like, it's so much more. And again, coming back to earlier, like, we're so much more than our bodies. Like, we're so much more than our physical appearance. Like, I always say I'm the healthiest unhealthy person you will ever meet because I appear as I'm able-bodied, I'm thin, I'm fit, and I look healthy. But people don't know that, like, I have a nervous system disorder. I have POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
Jeez.
Big word meaning that my nervous system does not it doesn't function properly.
Okay.
So, and then I also have a GI disorder called gastroparesis, meaning I have a hard time digesting food. And then I have anxiety, it's pretty bad anxiety. And then I have some other things. But no one knows.
Because it's all on the inside.
It's all on the inside. And I have other friends who are like that, people who look, they're athletes and they have, they may have fibro. They may have some other kind of autoimmune disorder. But people think that nothing could be wrong with them because of the way they look.
Right.
And then they're going to think someone who is like overweight, and that's in quotation marks, and they could have nothing wrong with them, like healthy blood pressure, healthy cholesterol, and they're going to say you're not healthy because you don't look like it.
It blew my mom's mind because when my dad was at his biggest, 6'4", 437 pounds, like he's a big boy, and blood pressure, sugars, cholesterol, everything was perfect.
Yeah, and that's how it should, that's it.
Yeah, and he spent. So here's the thing, he told me one time, he was like, I saw a photo of myself. I just wasn't happy with how I looked. So he spent 2 years and he got down to 220, 215, somewhere around there. And, but he got down to like 300 and they did the lap band. They would not do the lap band until he lost all that weight because they said that's how you're going to do it healthily. If we just do the lap band or any of that, you're going to gain it right back. So now he's about 240, 250, but he's a lot healthier. Like 220 was actually a little skinny on him.
Yeah.
So when I graduated high school, I was 6'6", 330. And then I grew another inch and a half and I dropped to 210. And I recently found a photo and I look sick. And even then I was like, oh, I have this little bit here I need to get rid of. Even at 210, I was like, I had no muscle. I had no nothing. And it was not good. It was not good.
It's a weird thing, like that, everyone gets it on all sides. And I think that's why I love seeing this kind of revolution. And I kind of like aligning myself with that. But getting out of this whole, you have to hit a certain number on a scale. You have to look like this. You have to do this. Our bodies are capable of doing amazing things. Let's just honor that. And then just being like, again, I love memes, but I saw she's a person I follow on Instagram and was like, a non-weight related goal to work out, more stamina for sex. And I thought that was like the greatest thing ever. And I thought it was so funny, but she was just sharing things about working out and exercising and being active that has nothing to do with aesthetics.
Right.
And I think that's so important for people to realize, and doctors don't do a great job at that either.
Yeah.
But and personal trainers don't either. I've worked with so many that I'm just like, you need to go jump off a cliff. But just being like, and I mean, I was working in corporate fitness before I moved here, and we would have to do weight loss programs, and I'm dying on the inside because people are like, I want to lose 5 to 10 pounds. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I'm like, why? Oh, because of my health insurance or which, like big middle finger to that. And then but it's just like these reasons that aren't for anything. Like,
oh, yeah. One of their things was.
And I'm just like, but can we talk about, and I'm asking them for goals, like, well, what about other goals? Like, do you just want to like feel better about your body, look better in your clothes? Because those aren't assigned to a number. Yeah. Like, do you want to be able to play with your babies and your kids better? Like,
sleep better.
Yes, sleep. People don't understand how important, like how exercise and being physically active can make you sleep so much better. That is, people don't understand that at all. But it's like there's so many other things that we can work on that have nothing to do with weight, and people don't know about it.
Well, and
then if you give them these examples, they're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, let's unpack this and think more about what we can do.
One of the other things they did is if you smoked, you had to pay $75 a month, I think, or a year as a tobacco tax. But my problem with that was I was like, you know what? You want to do that? That's fine. But you should also give a program to help people stop smoking instead of just charging them. Because all you're going to do is create people who are going to lie to you so they don't have to pay $75.
Yes. It does nothing to do, like, again, going back to like public health, we talk a lot about just interventions and what we can do to make the communities healthier.
Yeah.
And that is things, if there is a smoking problem, you're not saying, hey, don't smoke. Like, people always think I'm going to get after them for telling them, they're like, I ate pizza, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I'm glad you ate pizza.
Pizza's delicious.
Like, I eat pizza too. And they're like, but you're a personal trainer. And I'm also like, yeah, and for 10 years I didn't touch a motherfucking pizza.
So that's another funny thing, because I post all this crazy food shit I eat on Instagram. I'm not
going to shame people for what they put in their bodies.
But I've had people come up to me and go, look at you, you can just eat anything. And I was like, no, it's because I eat baked chicken and vegetables every day of the fucking week, so I can eat like an asshole. So I can leave here and go get crazy amounts of barbecue, because I'm going to do that once a month or once a week or something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that every day. You see me eating at Jackie's Stream, shout out Jackie's Stream, greatest restaurant in the world. I don't eat like that 3 times a day. Like, I got up and I ate oatmeal. And
people don't know. It's like, so again, if we're going back to research, they've done this with addiction and stuff. And, they did it with a study with mice. It's the sugar study, right? They gave one mouse.
That's my big problem right now.
The sugar water. So like they fed one mouse constantly nothing but sugar, and then they restricted one that didn't have it at all. And when they introduced sugar to the one that had been restricted, that mouse actually ended up having more sugar than the one that was exposed to it. So a big part of this is, like, especially when it comes to intuitive eating and this new dimension, is not restricting foods from you, because those foods, again, shitting with your shit, has power over you because you're giving it. This is a forbidden food. This is a bad food.
Right.
So when you do allow yourself to have it, you end up going on this binge, and then you feel like shit. And I used to do this. But, like, I'm going to eat all this motherfucking ice cream, and then I'm going to feel horrible, so then I'm going to go back to restricting myself, compared to, you know what? I want ice cream. I'm just going to have a little bit today. And, like, once you start exposing yourself to those forbidden things or things that are bad, and you start having them, they really don't have that power over you, and you actually end up consuming less than you would if you always give it away. And that's why most diets fail, is because you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're restricting everything instead of coming at it from a place of nourishment mentally and physically, and developing a healthy relationship with food. And it's hard. Like, it's taken me years. But I have found that, like, once I stopped labeling things as good and bad, and I was like, okay, I'm eating some ice cream today. I'm going to eat half the carton, the little carton, not the full one. And then I realized I stopped craving some of those things because I started letting myself have forbidden foods. And I think that's something that the States has a really hard time with, is because we have an overconsumption. And we also have this mentality, like, huge portions. And then we also have this thing of, like, everything is bad.
That's another thing in being a bigger dude, is trying to get people to understand that, let's say, Oreos. You eating, for it to impact you as it impacts me, if you ate 3 Oreos, I would essentially have to eat like 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. And I've had people say, well, you eat too much. I was like, no, sometimes I eat in proportion to my body. I've had problems with, especially in the last year, not intaking enough calories, to where I actually got sick for like a month and a buddy of mine finally kind of snapped me out of it. He was like, you're used to distracting yourself during the day with meetings or whatever, so that if you didn't eat as many calories back then, you didn't notice it. because
Yeah.
you were busy and you're distracted. Whereas now, you're just sitting around not doing anything and you're wondering why you're hungry all the time.
Yeah.
He was like, how many calories did you eat today? And I figured it up, and I had ate like less than 1,000 calories for every day for like a week. He's like, that's not good. You need to eat. So then, but here's the other flip side. So then I buy like granola and trail mix and stuff like that, nuts, berries, stuff like that. And then I've got another friend. She was like, that's not organic, so that's actually not. And she just started going off on me. I was like, here's the other thing. If you're missing this, I'm not working. So buying a $10 bag full of nuts and berries, I can do that. I can't spend
Elitist food culture is
I
what
can't
I like
spend
to call that.
$24 for one day's worth of
Yeah, so
snack.
food shaming is something,
Yeah.
again, that's really prevalent and horrible. And my industry sucks at is that it makes people, but that's, again, how, unfortunately, people in my industry make their money is they make people feel like shit and they
Oh, yeah.
manipulate them with shame and guilt. And it's the worst. And I hate that. And that's what... It really just pisses me off. Like it's just, it's so, it fires me up, and I don't even have words. Like I'll
go
it's
back
elitism.
to what you were saying about the sugar, no sugar thing. So forever, I drank Cokes. I drank sodas all the time. And I could never stop because I would stop for like 2 weeks, and then I would just overdo it.
Yeah.
Because and there were points where I was drinking 5 to 7 2 liters a day of Mountain Dew. Like a day.
Poor kidneys.
Yeah. And never had, same thing, never had any issues. Knock on wood, never had any health issues. But then I just decided one day, I was like, you know what? I need to stop doing this. Like I started like slowly kind of working them down. And then I got to a point, I was like, you know what? I need to buy them in cans as opposed to like 2 liters. And I'll have one like after dinner or something like that,
Yeah.
Especially, and then I just slowly kept working it down to where now I don't have a Coke in my house. Like I don't really want to drink them anymore. But like I'll go to a friend's Super Bowl party and he'll have Mountain Dew and I'll drink 4 cans of Mountain Dew because it's amazing. It's still amazing. It's that taste. But then when I get done, I'm after
You don't want it anymore. Like, yeah. And
they're even like the 4 mini cans. Right?
Yeah.
But after that, I'm just like, oh God, okay, not doing that again. But just stopping it didn't help. It took slowly over time getting to the point to where even the other day I was like, I have not had Cokes in my house in probably a year. I was like, maybe I should grab some. I was like, nah, I just drink water and coffee and beer.
Yeah.
Beer every once in a while, but water and coffee.
Yeah.
That's it. And that helped a lot more than just complaining. Sugar, it's hard, like cookies and shit. Like I've always argued, I was like, kind of what you're saying, I hope, which is I always have it at my house so I don't overdo it. So I can have 3 or 4 Oreos after dinner and not feel bad, as opposed to not having it for like 3 weeks and then
eating the whole container. Yes. And then you start that anxiety spiral. Like, even if you don't have a disorder of any sorts, but there's still that guilt and shame trip you have because you ate a whole bunch of something and you could have
Well, I'm in a Pringles spiral right now. So same thing. I'm not eating enough calories, but I can't figure out a snack in the midday. That's not something that just goes away immediately.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, I'll just buy a can of, and I'll fucking eat an entire
I
can
haven't had
of
Pringles since I was a kid.
God, they're so amazing. Don't do it. But I also know, hey, guess what? I'm going to do this for like a month, and then I'm going to be tired of these.
Yeah.
And I won't do it again for a year. Like ice cream. I haven't had ice cream in my...
I love ice
cream. I would eat the
cream.
shit out of ice cream all the
It's
time.
one of my favorites. Give me ice cream.
But it's like...
Give me ice cream and love poems and sad songs and sparkling
and
wine.
Hipster boys. We
With a
learned that.
motorcycle and tattoos. Yeah, like,
Jeez.
that's all I ask for in life.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you were talking about all your list of things. Good Lord, that list keeps growing. We get into hour 5 of this podcast, and we're going to hear even more to that. It's like a guy that knows how to iron. That really does something for me.
I was married to one of those and that.
Oh. I have had an ironing board. I
I don't iron clothes. It's a waste of time.
I got an iron when I bought my house, and it has still not left the box.
Yeah. It's a waste of time.
So, okay. We're going to wrap it up because I am about to burst. Sorry for the TMI.
No worries.
With getting your master's, do you think you will still continue to do the things you've done before, like dance or
Yeah, so my
yoga?
big goal is combining it all together in one
Okay.
big space. So
To kind of work in your history into your future.
yeah, so my overall goal is to one day have my own, being inspired by Sean and Dale, but I love the idea of a collective space. But having a collective space comprised of a whole bunch of different health and wellness modalities that is accessible for all the people, genders, sexes, disabilities, and we're using what we do. So I would be doing, yoga and fitness. I would love to have like a doula, childbirth educator, massage therapist, like whatever we do. And all of us are using our specialties as a way as an outreach. So we're going out into the community and making healthier communities on all the 7 dimensions of wellness, but also having people come into the studio as well.
Okay.
But it's really a place, it's a safe space for anyone to come to, people who don't feel welcome in other wellness spaces, that they can come into my space and work with one of my practitioners and be like, they feel affirmed and seen.
And maybe you haven't thought this far, or hell, it's you. You probably have thought this far in advance. Would you want to do that in a city, or would you want to do it here where it may be more impactful?
That is to be determined.
Okay.
I have no idea where my life will take me, but I know it will be needed wherever I'm at. I have a firm belief that the universe will guide me to where I need to be for that, and it'll all work out. So, if that's, I mean, I think there's a great need for this kind of outreach in Appalachia. I think there's a huge need for recovery-based programs and gender affirming, sex affirming, monetarily accessible wellness and fitness, and access to things like childbirth educators, or these things that make things easier. I think there's a huge need. I don't know if I'll end up here or not, but it'd be crazy to not say that something like that's not needed here.
Right.
Because there is a huge need for those kinds of programs all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me.